PMITV audiobook.
I followed the man, trudging along. From the outside, this probably looks like a parent dragging their child to some unpleasant cram school or something. Actually, I'm being taken to an unpleasant hospital right now. The feeling of a child being taken to the dentist must be something like this. I can't think of this man as my parent at all. This man doesn't seem to have any intention of matching his pace with mine. He strides ahead, occasionally glancing back to check if I'm following, then continues walking. To be honest, it's hard to keep up. Maybe we should have a conversation. There must be something to start with. Hey. At the sound of my voice, the man turns and stops. I cling to this moment. What is it? Why am I being taken to a treatment facility? The man starts walking again, but his pace is slower. I can just about keep up. I heard it's to cure your 3-day fever. That's true, but that's not what I want to know. I want to know why we have to go to a treatment facility instead of waiting for medicine. Why do we have to go to a treatment facility? Can't we just take medicine? Don't know. The man answers immediately. I don't understand Gustav's thinking. I don't know the circumstances. I'm just following orders and arranging the treatment. I see. So, the reason is unknown. By the way, the shop owner's name is Gustav. I didn't know that. Talking makes me out of breath. The man finally seems to notice my heavy breathing and slows down to walk beside me. There are still many things I want to know. I might as well ask everything. Sir. Nixky. Why is Nixky following Gustav's orders? I'm an explorer. So, Nixky is an explorer and is guiding me on Gustav's request. Is that right? He's not very talkative, but I'm sure that's the case. Where is the treatment facility? On the outskirts of 5th Street. We'll be there soon. He answers my questions matter-of-factly. His pace doesn't change. What does it mean to donate silver coins? It's in lieu of payment. They won't treat you if you don't donate. But can't they just take payment? The treatment facility doesn't accept payment. Is that how it works? It's probably just a matter of different wording, but they seem to be very particular about it. Oh no, the conversation has ended. He's starting to walk faster again. What kind of treatment do they do? The healers from the Healers Guild use magic, no, ritual magic to treat you. I think I heard a new word. Is ritual magic different from magic? It's not magic. It's a ritual. What's the difference between magic and ritual magic? There's no difference. He answers curtly, almost as if he's annoyed. But looking at his face, he doesn't seem upset, he just seems to be that kind of person. But it's still confusing. From what he said, magic and ritual magic seem to be different things. I can't tell the difference. I've been using magic casually, but I guess I need to learn more. I got distracted by the conversation and wasn't paying attention to my feet. I tripped on a step and fell. Ouch. I scraped my hand. It's a minor scrape, but it hurts quite a bit. Are you okay? Nixky didn't offer a hand but looked down at me with a blank expression. Yes, I'm fine. I waved my hand and replied. I felt a bit dizzy as I got up, but I managed to stand. Once he determined I could move, Nixky started walking again. He doesn't seem to be worried anymore. He's walking fast again. I'm a patient, you know. After that, we didn't talk much and arrived at the treatment facility quickly. The treatment facility was a completely stone building. The walls were smooth and seemed to be made of a single slab. It looked like concrete but had a bluish sheen. It was a mysterious material. The exterior looked like a church, with windows here and there. The glass was clear, something I hadn't seen before, as I was only familiar with frosted glass. When we opened the wooden door, the walls inside were also made of the blue stone. There were a few chairs attached to the walls and floor, where one could rest. No one's here. Let's go in. Nixky looked around the waiting room, confirmed no one was there, and went further in. I followed him. The back was an examination room. It wasn't a private room but a large room with several indentations on the floor, each with a cushion. A woman in a green school uniform with a cloak was sitting in the room. Nixky bowed, and she smiled and returned the bow. I'd like to request treatment. Nixky said this and looked at me intently. Donation. At that, I realized what he meant and hurriedly took out a silver coin. Here, please use this. Thank you. May the gods watch over and bless you. She took the coin, held it up, and placed it in a bag hanging from her chest. The smooth motion suggested she was used to it. So, what's the matter? Nixky looked at me and gestured with his chin. I'd like to be treated for a 3-day fever. Oh my. The healer put her hand to her mouth dramatically and smiled. Please, sit over there. She guided me to a chair on the floor. Relax. The healer placed her hand on my head and recited a spell. In the name of Terit, I command, cleanse and aid this one. Heal. My body felt warm, and then a chill seemed to gather at the ends of my body and disappear. I command again, grant this one vitality. Revitalize. I felt a surge of energy. I recognized this sensation. My ki had been slightly activated. Thank you for your hard work. The healer stepped back and gestured for me to stand. I clenched and unclenched my hand, confirming the strength had returned to my body. I felt great. My body felt as light as a feather, and there was no joint pain. Wow. Thank you so much. I couldn't help but express my gratitude. I didn't expect to feel this good. Oh, it was just a good warm-up for me. Terit smiled. Her beautiful face lit up warmly. Now, child, go home quickly. Go play and be lively. She turned to Nixky, as if advising a guardian. Besides the treatment, I've cast a ritual to boost your vitality as a precaution. You should be fine for a while. However, for your health, consider using preventive medicine. This year, especially, you can get cheap mackerel. I'm just here to bring this boy. I'm not his guardian. Oh my. Terit looked at me with pity. Then, what about this child? She was about to ask about our relationship, but Nixky interrupted. He's from the slums. Oh, that must be tough. Terit gripped the small bag at her chest, probably worried about my financial situation. I'm fine. I earn enough to manage. Hearing this, Terit looked down, then at me. It seems you haven't walked a dark path, so there's no need to worry. But from now on, walk in the light. Then, the gods will have mercy on you. Her eyes met mine, and I could see she genuinely cared for me. At that moment, a noisy sound came from the entrance. Someone was coming in. Terit. I got hurt again, can you help me? I thought it was a group due to the noise, but it turned out to be one person. The middle-aged man approached Terit with a smile, pressing a cloth to his hand, looking apologetic. Heyman, again. Please be more careful at work. No, it's just a cut, but I need to get it checked just in case. The man noticed me and Nixky for the first time. He frowned but then continued his conversation with Terit. Can you check it just in case? Please? I can't refuse, but I'm sorry. After this one is done. Hearing this, the man looked at me, sizing me up from head to toe. Ah, this look again. That's why I didn't like going out in the city. This kid is done, right? Come on, treat me. The man pushed past me and approached Terit. Hey. I was getting irritated. Even if I'm a child, this treatment is not right. Huh. The man glared at me, not hiding his displeasure. Can't you see I'm hurt? This brat, can't you see? Even if you're hurt, you can't cut in line without an emergency. Huh. After glaring at me, he turned to Nixki. What a brat. Is this your kid? You need to discipline him better. Nixki closed his eyes, looking annoyed, and said, I'm not his guardian. The man sighed. What a mess. All right, be done. Go home. He pushed me again, and I almost fell. Clear malice. I glared at the man. What should I do? I can't back down. I'm angry. I'm angry. But I can't hurt him. It would just cause more trouble for Terit, and this guy clearly came here for her. He might even be happy to have more reasons to come. Seeing me quiet, the man probably thought I wouldn't resist anymore. He lost interest in me and turned back to Terit. His lips were relaxed. I wanted to punch him. But I can't cause more injuries. My rationality held me back. So, I can't cause more injuries. I had a good idea. My cheeks curved into a smile. Hey, sir. He's probably past his prime, but I'll call him that for now. What? Do you need something else? He looked at me with annoyance, but I found it amusing. I subtly released my magic, focusing it on his arm. It was a small cut, like a scratch from a thin blade. As expected. This is something I can easily heal with my magic. Your hand, what are you doing with it? As I said this, I healed the cut and cleaned it without him noticing. I'm used to this. It's a quick process. The man looked at his hand in shock. There was no sign of the cut, just his hand as it was before. Well, there's nothing wrong with it. Terit, who had been looking, smiled and said the same. The cut was healed. For the man, it was definitely there, but now it was gone. It must be unsettling. His gaze wavered uncertainly. Embarrassed, the man fell silent for a moment, then burst into anger. You. What did you do? He must have been trying to regain his composure. He directed his anger at me. Not only that, he grabbed my shoulder and tried to shake me. I didn't counterattack, but I did resist. I used telekinesis to fix my body. Of course, his strength couldn't move me at all. I stared at him silently. I could see confusion in his anger. The cut is gone, isn't that good? I smiled at him. He stopped moving. What did you do? Do you think I did something? I'm just a small child. His aggressive stance must look ridiculous from the outside. Looking up at his face, I added. The cut is gone, isn't that good? TCH. He spat and let go of my shoulder, turning away. I'll be back. He told Terit and left the treatment facility, looking very upset. The noisy footsteps faded away. He was as loud coming in as he was leaving. Saying he'll be back. I don't think a treatment facility is a place to make appointments. Ha ha, you're right. It wasn't clear if she understood what just happened, but she was quietly smiling. Well, I should go home now. Take care. I left the examination room. Terit waved modestly to see me off. Wow, ritual magic is amazing. I was very excited and talked to Nixki. He listened with a blank expression. The cause of the fever was easily removed, and the body was strengthened from the outside. I want to learn ritual magic. Study it. I have no idea where to start, though. I folded my arms and groaned, and Nixki frowned, looking annoyed. If you have magic, you can join the Healers Guild and learn. I'll think about it. Think about it, huh? It's tough for someone from the slums, so be prepared. So, there's discrimination even there. I had a vague idea, but... Of course. In fact, no one who doesn't discriminate against healers or mags exists. She's an exception. You mean Terit? She seemed kind, but maybe that's not normal. People with magic are valued. Discrimination against the underprivileged is common. Even if you come to the treatment facility with money, people from the slums won't be treated. So, I was lucky today. It's not luck. Probably. Nixky suddenly stopped talking. I've said too much. Let's go. He's a busy person. We left the treatment facility. My healthy body felt light and refreshing. By the way, was that healing magic earlier? Nikuski asked me as we walked. Are you talking about the man's hand? Something like that. He can already walk normally. Health is truly wonderful. Without looking at me, Nikuski let out a sigh of admiration. Sure enough, you deserve the attention from Gustav. You don't even need to learn more about magic. My magic can only heal injuries. It's tough that I can't cure diseases. Besides, it's all self-taught, which is a problem. Actually, I didn't realize I was being evaluated so highly. I felt a bit embarrassed. We walked for a while. I had a bad feeling about what was ahead. We were almost at 12th Street. The sound of the craftsman's hammers seemed unusually loud. By the way, Nikuski, you're guiding me because you accepted a request, right? Yeah. When will the request be completed? When I deliver you back to the Pebble House. He answered while looking far away, expressionless. Then, can I count on you to protect me until then? After all, if I collapse, you can't deliver me. After a moment of silence, Nikuski looked at me. Indeed, that's true. Then, I'll help you. I got his commitment. If so, let's finish this quickly. The sound of metal hitting the ground echoed. Hey, it's those guys from earlier, right? The man who was in the clinic earlier suddenly appeared from the store. However, Nikuski and I continued our conversation without looking at him. He looked calm, but his hostility was evident. It was clear that he was blocking our path. But, you should be able to handle this guy alone, right? No, I can repel him, but I think I need Nikuski's help. Why? I don't have the confidence to incapacitate him without hurting him and without letting him get to Nikuski. Why would he come to me? The man's face turned red with anger, as if he had reached his breaking point. Hey, don't ignore me. I can hear you, so continue talking. Nikuski looked at the man expressionlessly. I wonder if he realizes he's provoking him. TCH. What did you do? What do you mean? Nikuski raised an eyebrow. As expected. You must have done something. Can't you use magic? There's no way a kid like you can do anything. Ah, I see. So the blame is on me. Nikuski clapped his hands and seemed to understand. Then he looked at me. Rather than helping, I'll take the lead. Well, I'm sorry, but it will be like that. I apologize for involving you. There was another suspicious person there. Not me, and not Terrieto. So, the suspicion fell on Nikuski. The man seemed to have gone home without realizing this, but he must have thought about it and decided to confront us, or rather, Nikuski. That's how it feels. Well, if we consider this trouble part of the request, it's fine. I felt relieved that he didn't seem angry. But with his expressionless face, it's hard to tell if he's actually furious. Nikuski took a deep breath and turned to the man. I can't use magic. I haven't done anything. The man gritted his teeth and stomped his feet. Then what the hell? Are you saying some miracle healed my injury without me knowing? Who knows? I can't say. With that, he took a step towards the man. Anyway, I didn't do anything. So, let me pass. No way. Hey. Come out. The man didn't back down and called out to the store. As if they were prepared, muscular men started to appear one by one. They all looked intimidating. This is what it means to be filled with hostility. Because of you, Terriato's examination was cancelled. You must have done something. He raised his voice to the crowd. Make him confess by beating him up. With those words, 6 men approached Nikuski. He looks like a corrupt official. HMPH. Nikuski snorted, dodged a punch, and moved into the nearest man's guard. He then pressed his palm under the man's chin and slammed him to the ground. The man writhed in pain, unable to break his fall. Nikuski kicked his solar plexus, and the man's body went limp with a small cry. A man in a hood tried to strike with a lariat. But Nikuski's fist was faster. The clean hit to the jaw knocked him out instantly. The men fell one after another right in front of me. I can't just stand here. This is the result of my actions. Although Nikuski ended up fighting, I should be the one to take responsibility. 2 men circled around behind Nikuski, and I took them on. They probably didn't expect an attack from a child, so I kicked the back of their knees. I destabilized one man with a knee strike. Ow. Then I wrapped my arm around his neck and applied pressure. I didn't actually choke him out. It was just a show. If they found out I could use magic, it would give Haman a reason to act. I wanted to keep it hidden, at least for now. I immediately used magic to reduce the oxygen concentration in his lungs. The struggling man lost consciousness after a few breaths. 1 more to go. How should I knock him out? I looked up at the last man. But the man foamed at the mouth and collapsed. Nikuski, you're fast. The scene looked like a battlefield. The muscular men were easily taken down by Nikuski. Let's go through, he said to Haman, who had turned pale, unlike his red face earlier. I started walking after Nikuski. Haman looked at Nikuski and me, then took a step back. Haman will have to deal with the fallen men. He can take them to the clinic. We returned to the slums without any further issues. I pushed open the creaking door and returned to the Pebble house. Hey. Gustav greeted me casually. Thank you. Thanks to you, I'm completely fine now. I just called the guide. You don't owe me anything. Gustav sighed and looked at Nikuski. Good work. Thank you. Nikuski took a piece of paper from his pocket, placed it on the counter, and unfolded it. Is this task completed? Yeah, the reward will be the usual. Understood. He put the signed paper back in his pocket and turned to leave. See you again. He called out to me and left the store without looking back. You seemed to get along well with him. Did I? I didn't feel like we became friends. You don't often see him that happy. Well, if that's the case, it's good. It's better than being scolded for causing unnecessary trouble. But with his expressionless face, I couldn't tell if he was happy or not. When we left the Pebble house, the sun was already setting. Thinking about it, I hadn't eaten anything all day. I was getting hungry. I should go catch some fish as a precaution. I want to get back before it gets dark. I ran quickly into the forest. You seem to have caused quite a stir. On that day, when I, who had just come back to life, went to the stone shack, Gustav greeted me with an unusually stern face. Let me ask you, what are you talking about? I asked, feigning innocence, though I had a pretty good idea. Gustav sighed and turned his face away before speaking. You caused a commotion on 5th Street. Oh, yes. As I expected, it was about Haman. The rumors started spreading on 5th Street. They say, if you get close to the slum dwellers, they'll attack you without a word. It seems the story has been quite distorted, hasn't it? Yeah, I guess so. Gustav frowned and looked at me, deep lines forming between his eyebrows. But that's how rumors work. They get twisted by those who spread them and change as they pass along, becoming something absurd by the time they are heard. Right. I've confirmed the situation with Nexki and have a good understanding of what happened. It wasn't the worst, but it was a bad move. Was it? Yeah. It was good that you didn't kill him. It was also good that you didn't seriously injure him. But fighting was a mistake. You mean I should have avoided the fight? Exactly. The people in the slums are in a weak position. If you win such disputes, you'll have trouble later. You should have run away. I can understand that, but I can't accept it. Yeah, I get it. He nodded, showing some understanding, but his expression remained grim. But that's the wisdom we need to live in this slum. Then he looked outside, his voice tinged with sadness. If you want to live long, don't stand out. Live quietly and within your means. His face seemed to convey a deep sense of reality. Dash. Do you know the story of the crow that flies by day? No, I haven't heard of it. It's a cautionary tale told to children. What's it about? It's a simple story. Gustav began to tell the fable solemnly. Dash. One night, a crow was sleeping in its nest when it had a dream of becoming the king of birds. It made the other birds bring it food and shiny coins, and it cawed proudly. When it woke up in the middle of the night, it still felt like a king, as if it were still being revered and respected. The crow tried to caw like it did in the dream, but no one came. When the sun rose and it was daytime, the crow left the forest and went to a field where small birds were gathered. It tried to caw loudly, just as it did in the dream, thinking the birds would gather around it. But instead of the birds, it was met with stones thrown by humans. The stones hit its belly, and as it died, the crow thought, it was a mistake to expose myself in broad daylight. I should have just caught as much as I wanted in the dark forest at night. Dash. In essence, that's what the story is about. If you don't know your place, you'll end up in a bad situation. That's the moral of the story. I couldn't judge whether his words were right or wrong, so I just remained silent. Even if you didn't have the ability to run away, Nixki could have easily carried you and escaped. Maybe he was just too cocky. Gustav sighed, shaking his head. Well, you should stay away from 5th Street and the Craftsman's District for a while. Rumors in the slums are common and will fade quickly. He added, but until then, you should be careful around the others. Dash. I left the stone shack and headed back to my place, lost in thought. Indeed, there was no need to pick a fight there. I could have used my magic and combat skills to escape normally. But it still felt unjust. He was a nasty guy. At the clinic, he pushed me aside and even tried to shove me out. In the city, he gathered people to carry out a vigilante punishment. And just for retaliating, I'm the one who gets in trouble. Gustav said it would cause trouble later. What kind of trouble? Being in a weak position means not being recognized as a resident of the city. You don't get the city's protection. Indeed, that alone could make you a target for crimes by the citizens. You might get lynched just for walking around the city. If you get robbed or hurt, they might let you off with, he's just a slum dweller. To avoid such terrifying situations, everyone must endure. As long as I'm in the slums, this endurance will continue. I don't think I can bear it. So, how can I escape the slums? How can I get citizenship and be on equal footing with them? I remember Stoner's unpleasant gaze. The look that judged me as unclean and someone to avoid based on my appearance. I remember Haman's evaluating look. The look that decided I was someone who could be pushed aside. If I get citizenship and move out of the slums into the city, will their gazes change? If I live in the city without changing my appearance or attitude, will they be able to judge differently? I explored the city once and thought, even if I change, nothing will change. But is that really true? I want to try. If I change, will they change too? Can they treat me as a regular citizen, not just a slum dweller? I want to laugh at those who don't change. I want to laugh at them and ask, what are you looking at? Yes, I will escape the slums. It might take a long time, and I have no idea what to do. But maybe it's worth trying. After all, I have nothing else I want to do. From now on, this will be what I want to do. Dash. The Crow That Flies by Day was the original title of this story. Living in an ordinary part of town was something I had thought about when I first came to this city. At that time, not knowing what to do, I had followed a child who seemed to be living independently. As a result, I ended up living in this slum. Due to my ignorance, I ended up living in this slum. If it were just ignorance, it could be managed. I could do research or ask people. But when I came to this city, there was no one I could consult. Now, I do have someone to consult. A few days later, I asked Mr. Gustav. So, I want to try living in the city. You've suddenly changed your mind. It's amusing to see Mr. Gustav, who is usually expressionless, show a surprised face. Coughing to regain his composure, Mr. Gustav said in a lecturing tone. Well, it's not going to be possible for a while. Why not? It's an age issue. Mr. Gustav looked down at me and pouted. How old are you? No, you probably don't know. How many winters do you remember? I counted on my fingers. I'm 5 years old. 5 winters, huh? So, including the ones you don't remember, you're probably around 7 or 8. Mr. Gustav put his hand to his mouth and thought. But he seemed to be misunderstanding something. No, I'm 5. I remember everything. Ha ha, that's not possible. Mr. Gustav laughed it off at first, but then, seeing my expression, he became serious. You don't seem to be lying. Yes, I was abandoned right after I was born, and I remember everything from that moment on. I thought you were unusual, but I didn't expect that much. Mr. Gustav sighed in exasperation. Anyway, let's get back to the age issue. Yes, you said it's not possible to live in the city for a while due to my age. And after a moment, Mr. Gustav explained. If you want to live in the city, it's easy for a normal person. All you need is a place to live. You can rent a place in the city or buy an empty house. If you can pay, I can arrange it for you. But in your case, it's difficult because you're so young. You mean, a small child can't be allowed to own such things? Yes. In some cases, the authorities might even confiscate them. I'm still young. That's the biggest problem. There's nothing I can do about it. I just have to wait for time to solve it. By the way, children living in the city usually have adult parents. They live in the property owned by their parents, which is why they are recognized as citizens. So, it's tough without parents. Small children can only rely on their parents, right? Hearing this, Mr. Gustav muttered softly. You say that, but you're doing pretty well for someone living in the slums and earning a living. Ha ha, I've been lucky. In fact, if I couldn't use magic, I would have been eaten by stray dogs and died right after birth. Not having parents makes this world treat us harshly. But that means I have to wait until I'm an adult, right? I couldn't hide my disappointment. I sighed involuntarily. Well, by the official method, that's true. But Mr. Gustav nodded with a meaningful look. By the official method. Is there an unofficial method? Unofficial is not the right word. It's more like a loophole. Of course, there must be something. Smiling, I said this, and Mr. Gustav looked smug for a moment. Earlier, I said children can't own property, but there's no official rule against it. Well, I thought that might be the case. However, it makes sense that stores and authorities would think it's not a good idea to let children make big purchases. This can also be seen as a matter of trust. Children are thought to lack the ability to handle property and large sums of money. I suppose that's true. But there are exceptions, right? Exceptions, you say. Examples of children handling large amounts of money, like gold coins. Is there anything like that? Mr. Gustav spoke deliberately. Nobles or rich people's children? Oh. I snapped my fingers. I hadn't thought of that because I've never dealt with them, but that makes sense. I imagined a spoilt young master walking around in expensive clothes, with servants in tow, shopping. Grandpa, I want that. Yes, young master. This house, right? Just 2,000 gold coins, what a bargain. I felt a bit irritated. They can make expensive purchases using their parents' credit and money. In other words, if I have credit, I can own a house, right? Yes. If you have a title or status, the authorities won't confiscate it. If I had that, but I don't have either. If you say that, do you have any ideas? This is a bit tricky. Mr. Gustav squinted one eye and made an indescribable face. Get a job. Get a job. It seems easier than being born into nobility, but is that enough? Yes. Titles and status sound impressive, but in reality, you can get both by working. I'm a merchant, I'm a guard, that sort of thing. It has nothing to do with nobility. What was the point of the earlier conversation? That was an extreme example, and they're using their parents' status. In your case, you don't have parents, so you need your own credit. So, you're telling me to work? Yes. You're smart and strong, and you have the ability to work normally. It's flattering and embarrassing to hear that. But there's one last issue. An issue? You mean age? Yes. We were the only ones in the store, with sunlight warming the merchandise through the windows. Mr. Gustav took a swig from a bottle he had pulled out from somewhere, as if he was thirsty. Do you know how most people get jobs? I shook my head silently. If I had known that, I might not have ended up in the slums. First, until they become adults, they help their parents. Rich people and nobles mostly send their children to school or hire tutors, but for the average commoner, they have no choice but to help their parents until they grow up. Everyone helps with the family business, then. Most people do. And when they grow up, they usually take over the family business. But, Mr. Gustav continued, those who don't take over the family business become apprentices somewhere when they grow up. Where they go depends on their own wishes and the store's convenience. I have to go that route, then. Wait a minute. Mr. Gustav took another sip of water. Craftsmen and merchants usually follow this path, but there are jobs you can get without waiting until you're an adult. Jobs where the individual's skills are valued more than inherited skills, like guards, knights, or explorers. Those jobs, I could get. Yes. That would be the fastest way. So, I should aim for one of those. The thought of combat is a bit concerning, though. Many of these jobs hire people as apprentices from around 13 years old, even before they become adults. That's still a long way off. Another 8 years. The last exception is explorers. Explorers. Yes. Exceptionally, you can join a guild from around 10 years old. There's no official rule, but that's how it is in this city's guild. Still about 5 years. I think you can fudge that a bit. Huh. In the middle of this conversation, someone burst in, making a commotion. The door was slammed open. Grandpa! Help me! Hero, who had rushed in, shouted at Mr. Gustav without even catching his breath. Rico is sick. He shouted without waiting for a response. Just bring her here. Mr. Gustav said calmly, his usual expressionless face back. Immediately, Hero dragged Rico, who was barely conscious with a high fever, and brought her in. Though she seemed to be conscious, Rico was dazed and barely responsive, slumping over the counter. 3-day fever. What? Gustav touched Ruko's neck, asked Hero a few questions, and then concluded. 3-day fever. Isn't that a potentially fatal disease? What should we do? Gustav sighed and turned his eyes away from the panicked Hero. Medicine, medicine. 3 silver coins. Hero, who was frantically asking for medicine, was calmly told by Gustav. Hero was speechless at the words spoken over his shoulder. I don't have 3 silver coins. Hey, old man, I'll do anything, please help. Anything, huh? Then bring me gold. Or something equivalent. I don't have that either. That's why I'm asking you. There was no room for negotiation. Excuse me. Unable to hold back, I spoke up. Hero looked at me as if he had just remembered I was there. Gustav turned around reluctantly. Would it be impossible to go to a clinic? Even without medicine, it would be fine if we could get her treated. There was no fixed donation amount, so Hero could just pay what he could. It won't work. Gustav easily dismissed that idea. There's no way a healer would treat a kid from the slums. They'll see you as an easy target, turn you away, and that's the end of it. Even if they do treat her, they'll do a half-hearted job and say, it didn't work. But, when it was your turn, they knew Telly was on duty. He would treat you. I even assigned Nixky to make sure you'd be fine even if Telly wasn't there. With an adult around, they won't turn you away, and Nixky can use his judgment if something happens. That's true. Nixky had indeed said that she treats people from the slums without discrimination, and she was one of the few who did in this city. However, if having an adult around made a difference, there was still a way. Then, if not Nixky, could we hire someone else? That won't work either. Or rather, it's meaningless. He immediately shot it down and pointed at Hero with his thumb, saying in a disappointed tone, Do you think this guy can afford to hire someone? Indeed, that was true. Can you afford anything? Suddenly put on the spot, Hero frantically shook his head. No, it's impossible. That's the case. Gustav frowned in dissatisfaction. If you had the money to hire someone, you could just buy the medicine. There's no need to bring an adult and go to a clinic. That's true, but something still didn't sit right with me. The air in the room grew heavy. No one had any more suggestions. The 2 children had no way to help Ruko. Gustav, who had the power to help, had no intention of doing so. He was truly a businessman. I understand. Hero spoke softly. I just need to earn some money, right? It's been tough lately because of the strange rumors and increased vigilance, but I'll just have to resort to pickpocketing again. I understand. I'll figure something out. With that, he helped Ruko to her feet and started to walk out. They left the shop without looking back. Once they were gone, the shop became quiet. I could have left, but I felt uneasy. Unable to bear the silence, I spoke up. You could have helped them. Huh? Gustav raised his head with a look of annoyance, his usual expressionless face. They're regular customers. Couldn't you have helped them a little? I would if it seemed profitable. Though he said it weakly, I knew it was the truth. I'm not a saint. If it seems like I can make money, I'll invest. You should be more like that. You made a fortune, after all. He drained the water from a small bottle and shook it to let the last drops fall into his mouth. You said you got lucky. That's true. You are lucky. So don't put other people on the same level as you. Everyone has their own value. You have value, but they don't. People should live according to their status. I see. I couldn't argue. I left the shop and went to look for the 2 of them. I just couldn't stop thinking about them. In reality, Hero was probably the only one taking action. Ruko was likely resting somewhere. The range of movement in this slum was limited, and Rico was probably sleeping at their base. I decided to go there first. "Excuse me." I called out and opened the half-ruined door. The single-room shack was covered in dust and spider webs. I carefully stepped onto the floor, which looked like it could collapse at any moment, and found Rico lying there. Her breathing was rough, her face flushed, and she was delirious with fever. Despite trying to be quiet, Rico must have sensed my presence and opened her eyes. "Hey. Hero isn't here." She raised her hand weakly and smiled. "We met at the shop earlier." "Hero isn't here." No, that's not it. I came to visit you." I had come without any gifts, but seeing her like this made me worried. 3-day fever is indeed a deadly disease. But for those who can afford treatment, it's just a slightly severe and highly contagious cold. However, this is the slum. There are no savings for prevention, and few can afford the substantial amount needed for treatment. Everyone just survives each year by luck. I didn't bring any gifts, so I'll use what I have. I'll make a nice pillow. I froze a bag of drinking water and wrapped it in a rag. I then placed it under Rico's head. This is nice." She smiled slightly and placed her hand, which had a few bug bites, on the pillow. "Ice can be used like this. It's a luxury." She seemed to doze off after that and fell asleep. There was nothing more I could do by staying. I stood up and went outside to look for Hero. While walking, I suddenly thought, why am I looking for Hero? He's a guy I don't like. I have no obligation to help him. His poverty isn't my fault. I should just leave him alone. But when I try to leave him, I feel restless. I don't know what this feeling is, but it must be an unpleasant one. Hiro was found soon enough. As soon as we left the slums, shouts echoed. A crowd had gathered, peering into an alley. Some looked on curiously, others winced and twisted their faces, some narrowed their eyes with hatred, and others gave cold, indifferent glances. In the center of these gazes, Hiro sat against a wall, surrounded by adults. His limbs were limp, and his face was swollen. "Is this enough?" One of the 3 adults standing in front of Hiro muttered. His hands were stained with blood, and it was clear whose blood it was. "This isn't enough, sir. These guys are like pests." One of the onlookers shouted. Another chimed in. "Cutting off a limb would be just right, do it. Isn't it enough already?" The man with blood-stained fists sighed and turned to look at the 2. "What's going on here?" I looked around. The onlookers were murmuring. "That guy tried to snatch something. Yeah, he's from the slums. Considering the recent attacks, they're all dangerous. Well, what can you do? They're from the slums, after all. It's divine punishment." Such words buzzed around. "I see, so he was caught trying to snatch something, and now they're retaliating. That's what's happening. If that's the case, this is his own doing. I have no obligation to help him. I have no obligation. But for some reason, I can't look away. For some reason, it irritates me." I looked at the faces of the adults surrounding Hiro. 2 were large and muscular for civilians. The one who had beaten Hiro was the handsome one. He had golden hair down to his shoulders and a fur-trimmed cloak. He looked elegant at first glance, but his eyes were sharp, giving him a more wild impression. "Well, we can't go against the wishes of our employers." The golden-haired man smiled, twisting his lips, and put more force into his legs. Then, he aimed a roundhouse kick at Hiro's temple, who was slumped against the wall. He was about to kick. The golden-haired man's movement stopped abruptly. He didn't stop on his own. The other adults didn't stop him, and Hiro didn't stop himself. "What?" The golden-haired man was surprised. I was surprised too. I had stopped him with telekinesis. I didn't know what I was doing myself. I thought I could just leave him. I thought this was his own fault. He hadn't asked for help, and I had no reason to help him. But I couldn't leave him. As soon as I released the telekinesis, I activated my fighting spirit and leaped to Hyo-Oh's side. Without stopping, I picked up Hyo-Oh and put some distance between us. I landed with a cloud of dust. What the hell? You. The golden-haired man frowned at me. One of the men seemed to recognize me. Hey, isn't that the kid from before? What are you doing here? Apparently, I was among those who had been knocked out by Mr. Nixky. Mr. Rishid. Him too. Please punish him. The boss will be grateful. The man hurriedly shouted to the golden-haired man. Rishid, as he was called, heard this and twisted his lips. Cracking his knuckles, Rishid approached. Sorry, but that's the way it is. You'll pay for my drinks. His grin suggested he was already imagining his evening drink. A reason to help Hyo-Oh formed in my mind, which had been troubled. I really hate this face. Still, I had been warned just a few days ago to avoid fighting as much as possible. So, I ran. If I could ruin his evening drink, I'd be satisfied. I kicked off the alley wall and jumped, carrying Hyo-Oh. After a couple of wall jumps, I was above the rooftops. It might be a nuisance to the people below, but I couldn't help it. I ran across the rooftops toward the slums. The slums were just around the corner. I ran at full speed, leaping from roof to roof, ignoring the roads. Even without knowing the way, it didn't matter. It was easy. It should have been easy to escape. But it wasn't. Wow, you're fast, kid. Rishid was right behind me, his fighting spirit visible in the light. I tried to put some distance between us by jumping to the side. But it seemed he was faster. Wait a minute. Rishid's kick aimed for my side, but I barely blocked it with my knee. However, I couldn't stop the impact. With a thud, I was knocked to the ground. I landed without dropping Hyo-Oh. Fortunately, there was no follow-up attack. Hyo-Oh groaned softly, but I couldn't worry about that now. Not bad, but carrying someone makes a difference, even for a kid like you. Rishid landed with a cool expression. As he said, it was true. Rishid could use fighting spirit, which made him faster than I expected. Carrying Hyo-Oh made it difficult to escape. What should I do? In that moment of hesitation, Rishid didn't miss his chance. He quickly came to my face and kicked me. I crossed my arms to block, but his kick was infused with fighting spirit, and my arms went numb. Wow, you can use fighting spirit at your size. You're really something. He seemed to be enjoying it, just grinning without following up. It was unpleasant. Hey, over here. We found him. The two men from before joined us, and I was surrounded again. There were fewer of them than when I was with Mr. Nixky, but Rishid made them more troublesome. In fact, I thought Rishid alone was more troublesome than before. He. Brat, you're in for it. The men inched closer. After all, we've got the Rishid on our side. An explorer, huh? The unfamiliar phrase piqued my interest. I asked the men. I remembered that top explorers had nicknames. Was Rishid one of them? Ha ha. You know your stuff. This guy completes any mission faithfully and never lets his target escape. He's a hard worker, always doing the dirty jobs. Interrupting the man, Rishid self-mockingly added, but his face was full of confidence. I see. That's scary. Despite saying that, my fighting spirit didn't wane. His face was more unpleasant than I thought. But, you won't be able to call yourself that anymore. Huh? Rishid asked, not understanding what I meant. I didn't answer. Running was no longer an option. It seemed talking wouldn't work either. Then, I had no choice but to fight. I kicked up the sand at my feet and scattered it in the men's faces. If they closed their eyes for even a moment, it would be enough. I instantly kicked the head of the man on the right. Even though he was about 5 meters away, with my fighting spirit enhanced, it was no problem. A dull sound echoed as he flew backward. He was still breathing, so he should be fine. The other henchman, confused by what was happening, looked at the man who had been kicked. As soon as his gaze shifted, I swept his feet and punched his chin with a backhand. I heard a crack. He fell to the ground. One left, only Rishid remained. Impressive, he was already in a fighting stance. Wow, you're something, kid. What are you, anyway? Laughing, he drew a dagger from inside his cloak and held it in reverse. But, it's not over yet. It's over now. Before Rishid could say anything, I kicked his dagger-wielding hand, sending the dagger flying. I then struck his solar plexus several times with the palm of my hand. Rishid vomited and fell forward. Now, your target has escaped. The dagger I had kicked away landed and stuck in the ground right next to Rishid's head. I walked calmly down the street, carrying Hyo on my back. I might look calm, but I was trembling inside. I did it. I was told not to fight, but I ended up hurting them. I left the 3 men behind. Someone will probably help them. But this will spread rumors again. What will I say to Mr. Gustav? My first solo fight left me with a mix of exhilaration and regret, with a little more regret. With a small groan, Hero regained consciousness. Oh, you're awake. As I spoke to him from behind, he seemed to look around, trying to assess the situation. When he realized I was carrying him on my back, he let out a cry of surprise and struggled. What are you doing? Please stop struggling. If you can move, I'll put you down. His moving limbs collided with my body. It was troublesome. I gently lowered myself and placed Hero's feet on the ground, then let go. Why am I walking with you? He said, blinking repeatedly as he looked at me. I just snatched a fancy-looking bag. That's why you got caught and beaten up. Upon hearing those words, Hero touched his own arms and let out a scream. Ow, it hurts. All right, I'll treat you when we get to Rako's place. For now, just follow me. Hero looked momentarily dissatisfied but obediently followed. It seemed there were no pursuers, and we smoothly arrived at Hero's sleeping place. Looking back, I saw Hero struggling to keep up, a bit behind. I should have walked more slowly. When I was walking with Nixky, I had suffered in the same way. I silently apologized and waited by the door. Here you go. I opened the door and guided Hero in, feeling like a concierge. What's this? Despite his discomfort, Hero looked at me with a puzzled expression. That made sense. Following Hero, who was swaying, I stepped into the house. Hero. What happened to you, those injuries? Rako seemed to have regained some of her energy, sitting up against the wall with an ice pack on her stomach. It's nothing. Embarrassed, Hero turned away. It wasn't the kind of injury to be proud of. We had arrived at Hero's hideout. I could leave now, but I needed to follow through on what I said earlier. I didn't say it casually. While I do think Hero's injuries are a result of his own actions, there was something concerning in Rishid's conversation. He said that if the child, meaning me, were eliminated, the boss would give a reward. Rishid is an explorer. He now calls himself an explorer and moves for money. There's no doubt he's been hired. By whom? Probably, or rather, definitely by Heyman. The reason is the fight from before. As Mr. Gustav feared, Heyman is acting out of resentment towards the slum residents. The trigger for the attack was Hero's crime. However, the severity of Hero's injuries is largely my fault. To alleviate the guilt in my chest, I must heal him. Even if I apologize, I don't think Hero will blame me. It would be a surprise to him. Even if I heal him, it will only undo injuries he shouldn't have had in the first place. But I can't let it go at that. So, I will heal him. Can you stay still there? What is it? Hero was confused by my words and froze against the wall. I extended my magic, enveloping Hero. I quickly read the information about the surface wounds, muscle inflammation, and bone damage. Severe bruises all over the body, abrasions on the cheeks, back, and arms. The bruises can be healed quickly, and the abrasions don't seem too serious, but there's a complete fracture with displacement in the upper right arm. That's the worst of it. For some reason, the words flowed smoothly from my mouth. It's strange, but it must be related to my past life's memories. I'll use them as long as they're useful. For now, I've healed the bruises and wounds. Please rest until tomorrow. I used the healing magic as usual. I shaped the skin and repaired the muscle fibers. I forcibly removed the blood from the blood vessels. The swelling subsided quickly, and the skin returned to a clean color. That should be fine now. The problem was the bone. I could connect it as it is, but it would be troublesome if it healed crooked. Is the pain gone except for your arm? Yeah, Hero nodded, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. But it's going to hurt, a lot. Please bear with it. Huh. The response sounded a bit slurred. I pressed both sides of the broken area with my hands and placed my thumb on the broken part. Then, I pushed it in hard. Ow, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. Hero screamed. Stop it. Stop it. It's enough. It's enough. I thought I heard Hero use polite language, which was rare, but I couldn't focus on that now. While confirming the shape of the break, I used telekinesis to realign it. It was troublesome to avoid damaging the muscles and nerves, but it had to be done. I moved it back and forth until it was finally straight. Now it should be safe to connect. I used telekinesis to fix his limbs that were getting in the way, but I released them. It should be fine now. However, even though his injuries were healed, Hero was slumped over, breathing heavily. Huh. Shouldn't it be mostly healed? Is there still pain somewhere? You. Hero glared at me. It was hurtful, even though I had healed him. Hero. Are you okay? Ruko asked, worried. Upon hearing her words, Hero checked his body and his eyes widened. Huh. It's healed. It's healed. He shouted, touching and tapping his body. He had been noisy the whole time. I'll say it again, please rest until tomorrow. It's a self-taught healing magic, probably different from actual spells. It's better to be cautious. Why yeah. Hero responded, looking as if he had been pinched by a fox. Well, as long as Ruko is watching, he won't overexert himself. Hero's treatment is now complete. I turned to Ruko, who was watching from the wall. Her shoulders seemed to tremble at my gaze. There's no need to be so scared. Thank you. Ruko said her thanks in the form of a question. You're welcome. I smiled, and it felt like the tension eased a bit. However, I didn't really deserve the thanks. Did you heal my injuries with your magic? Yes, I did. Hero asked with a pout. Then he turned away and fell silent. What should I do? Thank you very much. After a long pause, Hero said his thanks in a very small, almost inaudible voice. I couldn't help but sigh. All right, take care now. With that, I stood up and brushed the dust off my clothes. It's time to go home. I'll report to Mr. Gustav and think about becoming an explorer tomorrow. I'm afraid of getting scolded. Hey. I stopped in my tracks when I heard a voice from behind. Turning around, I saw Hero looking straight at me. Wait, please. What is it? And your way of speaking is different from usual. Even as I laughed it off, Hiro's serious expression didn't waver. I have a favor to ask. I'll just hear him out. If you can heal my injuries, can you heal Riko too? Do you want me to cure a 3-day fever? Please? Hiro bowed his head. I was at a loss. I didn't know how to react. Honestly, I want to help a child who is bowing and begging, but I seriously doubt I have the ability. After all, I have no experience in treating illnesses. I can heal injuries because I used to get them often. But I never had to heal illnesses until recently. I never even thought about it. Sensing my silence as a refusal, Hiro continued to plead. I said I'd do something at that shop, but I can't. I just realized it. I can't pull off a theft without Riko. Even catching fish or birds, we always did it together. Hiro looked up. We can't do anything without each other. But if things stay like this, Riko. Unable to bear Hiro's growing agitation, Riko interjected weakly, but much better than before. Hiro, it's okay. I feel better compared to earlier. Well, the fever from a 3-day fever usually subsides quickly. In my case, it took a bit longer, but a 3-day fever typically causes high fever for short periods, about every 3 days. Riko must have just gotten through the first bout. And there's a chance it will heal on its own. Natural healing is possible. If your body is strong, it might just be a tough cold. But still. Hiro glanced at Riko, bit his lip, and looked back at me. I heard that people with weak bodies like us might die after a few more fevers. Tears welled up in his eyes. So, please, help Riko too. Unconsciously, the tension in my body eased, and my shoulders slumped. I wasn't swayed by his pleading. All right. It wasn't because I felt bad about making a child cry. I'll try to heal her, but I don't know any healing spells. Just in case, for when I might need to heal myself. Even if it doesn't work, don't be angry, okay? I just wanted to practice healing. Still, I'm really scared. I laid a blanket and had Riko lie down on it. Don't worry, there's nothing to be afraid of. I smiled and checked her temperature. I covered her neck and below with magic to estimate her body temperature. It's still a bit high, but it's going down. What are you doing to me? Riko, who couldn't sense the magic, was confused by my words. What is it? Like Hiro, tell me if it's going to hurt. Well, I'll do my best. I remembered he screamed a lot when I set his bones. Suddenly, I remembered something. Oh. What? What is it? Riko asked with teary eyes, looking like a frightened little animal. But it was different. I remembered something. I can use pain relief magic too. No, it's nothing. Sorry, it's nothing. It's even more scary now. I should have used it when I set Hiro's bones. I measured her temperature and checked her overall condition, but I hadn't really thought about what to do next. If I could use healing spells like Teleret, that would be great, but I doubt it's as simple as just chanting a spell. I have no idea how to activate healing energy. At the very least, I need to think of a way to help until I can heal her. I believe magic can do it. What is needed to heal? Maybe symptomatic treatment first. For a 3-day fever, the only prominent symptom is the fever. There was dizziness and chills, but those were likely due to the fever. So, should I lower the fever? If so, I can do that with magic. However, if the fever is a reaction to pathogens, forcibly lowering it might be bad. There are no signs of hallucinations or delusions, so I don't need to worry about encephalitis for now. The fever will subside on its own after a while, so I don't need to worry too much about it. Preparing food and water to help with recovery should be sufficient. Then, causal treatment. If I had antibiotics or antiviral drugs, that would be ideal, but I don't have any. According to Mr. Gustav, there are drugs for 3-day fever, so I can rely on them as a last resort. However, I want to try using magic this time. It's a matter of pride. The cause could be bacteria or viruses. There's also the possibility of poisoning, but if that were the case, Hero, who eats and drinks the same things, would also be sick. It's unlikely. If I can remove the microorganisms, I might be able to help. So, I need to identify the specific microorganism. I wish I could do it as easily as Teleret, but nothing comes to mind. I looked at Rako's body again. She's thin, and it's clear she's malnourished. There are many scrapes on her arms and legs. I'll heal those. While treating her, I noticed a bug bite on her arm. I had seen it when I gave her an ice pack, but on closer inspection, it seemed to be from a while ago. A possible cause flashed in my mind. A disease that only spreads in the slums and the eastern part of the city. Scenes of the city and children playing flashed through my mind. Could it be? If my guess is correct, I have a plan for treatment. But it sounds very troublesome and harsh. I'll need to approach this with determination. Can I heal her? The possibility that came to mind was malaria. Rako and I both had insect bites. Malaria is a disease spread by mosquitoes. And why didn't I realize it? The periodic fever every 3 days was a characteristic symptom of malaria. Of course, it could be a completely different disease. It might be something I don't know. This is a different world from the one I was in before. For all I know, malaria might not even exist in this world. However, the human form is the same in both the previous world and this one. Magic can be used, and ki can be generated. This makes us somewhat more resilient, but the structure is the same. Even trees and flowers, though there are some I haven't seen before, none of them look completely different. Monsters exist. But the birds I've eaten so far are almost the same as those in the previous world. Fish and maggots, everything is the same. Even mosquitoes have the same shape. If that's the case, it wouldn't be strange for similar diseases to exist. It wouldn't be strange for similar pathogens to cause similar symptoms. So from here on, I will assume it is malaria and proceed with treatment. That's what I decided. If it doesn't work, then so be it. The malaria pathogen is a protozoan. It enters the human body through mosquitoes, then proliferates in the liver and destroys red blood cells. I focus my consciousness inward. The liver is in the right abdomen, and thick blood vessels run through its flesh. Using magic, I can clearly see this. The blood flowing through the blood vessels, if I sense it in detail, can be separated into plasma and blood cells. As I do this, a pain shoots through my head. The amount of information entering at once is too much. It feels like being spoken to by multiple people at once, and I can't ignore any of it. I can feel my brain working at full capacity. However, I have to distinguish this. The target is flat and very small. It is disc-shaped with a depression in the center. I need to find the red blood cells. My eyes start to sting. I instinctively close them and press on the corners. I hear Rako's confused voice. I gesture to her to wait. Please wait a moment. I'll be done soon. I slightly change the blood flow with telekinesis, alter the flow rate, and narrow the range of my senses until I can see the particles. After doing this several times, I start to get the hang of it and can distinguish smaller structures. I focus intently, checking each blood cell one by one. This small one is probably a platelet. This irregular shape that seems to be moving is a white blood cell, and it's large, maybe a monocyte. After checking several, I finally found one I was certain of. This is a red blood cell. I have identified the red blood cells. Excuse me for a moment. I place my hand on Rako's chest. The problem is that everyone has a weak key, and to directly channel magic into the body, I need to touch or at least be very close. What? I place my hand on her thin chest, feeling the heartbeat. To purify the blood, it would be most efficient to check the heart, through which the blood must pass. I fill the heart with magic and pick out the red blood cells passing through it. There is even more information than before. It feels like being forced to speed read an uninteresting novel, with a barrage of information assaulting my brain. My eyes, which should have nothing to do with this, feel extremely tired. For some reason, I feel like my nose is about to bleed. Still, I managed to confirm several red blood cells. In one of them, it was there. A single-celled organism was wriggling inside the red blood cell, as if parasitizing it. It seems my guess was correct. This is probably a protozoan. But single-celled organisms look like this. Wow. What's going on? Ruko is panicking. I shouldn't make her anxious. Sorry. I found the cause, but it looks bad. The color drains from her face. She gasps and stiffens. Of course, the idea of something foreign in one's body is unsettling. Don't worry. I'll get rid of it right away. I have found the pathogen. Just a little more. I start picking out the same pathogens. There are a vast number of them, both inside the heart and entering it. Considering that there are about 5 million red blood cells per 1 L of blood, and Ruko's small heart has a volume of about 50 ml, the number of red blood cells is enormous. I almost want to give up, but I can't. I've come this far. I don't want to give up. Magic is currently omnipotent. Everything I imagine can be done. I'm even breaking the laws of physics. I won't lose to a mere disease. I take a deep breath and focus. The key is to kill these malaria protozoans. My magic can create any substance I imagine. Stones, ice, water, fire. If that's the case, I should be able to create something that doesn't exist in reality. I create a filter at the point where the superior vena cava connects to the heart. It reacts to microorganisms and breaks their cell membranes. The moment I create it, I feel drained. A large amount of magic is used. My vision blurs as if covered in a white mist. This is bad, it's a sign I'm about to lose consciousness. I can't lose consciousness yet. I slap my cheek with my free left hand. The pain clears my head. I can still do this. I squeeze out magic to complete the filter. I make sure it doesn't destroy the blood cells but does destroy the microorganisms. My vision blurs. This time, it's not just in my head. Even just maintaining this, magic is being used up rapidly. I don't know if it's because the filter is killing the protozoans or just because it exists. But if I stop supplying magic, the filter will disappear immediately. Ruko, the treatment will take a little time, so please stay still. Ruko nods quietly. I pour all my energy into maintaining the filter. This time, the color drains from my face, not Ruko's. Human blood circulates the body in about 1 minute. As a precaution, I should use it for about 2 minutes. Hero, I have a favor to ask. Even though it's my own voice, it feels like someone else is speaking. The sense of detachment is severe. Oh. Hero, surprised by the sudden call, sways and blinks. Can you count out loud from 1 to 120? I ask while maintaining the filter. Even speaking is difficult. Hero hesitates for a moment, then starts counting quietly. Good, he's listening. 30, 31, 32, 33. The counting sounds slow. He's probably counting at a normal pace. 60, 61. 1 minute has passed. It might be enough. I desperately try to negate this thought. The idea of stopping now is a tempting but dangerous thought. I try to clear my mind. Hero's voice sounds distant. 118, 119, 120. It's done. Hero, who was counting loudly at the end, announces the completion. I quickly dismantle the filter. My vision brightens a little. Thank you. I say my thanks and use the last of my magic. I choose a random red blood cell from Rico's body and check it. The disease is not yet cured. The liver, which I haven't even checked, is still a concern. But my limit has been reached. I confirm that there is not a single protozoan left and then lose consciousness. When I woke up, I was in an abandoned house. You're awake. Hero shouted dramatically and leaned in close. I wish he wouldn't do that when I've just woken up. That's right, I fainted while treating Rico. I tried to recall the hazy memory. I thought you were dead. I just fainted. Overused my magic. How long has it been since I collapsed from magic exhaustion? I think it's been the first time since I started living in the pioneer village. I sat up, rubbed my slightly blurry eyes, and looked around. The outside looked the same as before I collapsed. How long have I been out? I asked Hero. He counted on his fingers and glanced at Rico. About 15 minutes, right? Yeah, about that long. Rico was standing and walking normally. She looked better, which made me feel a bit relieved. Let's continue the treatment. Huh. My magic had recovered somewhat. I wasn't fully restored, but I could probably use the blood purification spell one more time. I shrugged, then stretched my back and loosened my body. As expected, there was nothing wrong with my body. Huh. Isn't it already over? You seem to be feeling better, right? Most of it is done. I've cleaned the blood, so the symptoms should be gone. I guess you could say you're cured, but does that mean you're not completely cured? Will the fever come back? Hero interjected. He also seemed to be back to his usual self. It's like the crow that cried is now laughing. That's right. The cause of the original illness might still be there. If it remains, the fever could continue for years. Once we confirm it's gone, we can say you're completely cured. At those words, Rico swallowed hard. Well, this time it's easy. It'll be quick, so can you sit there? All that's left is to eliminate the dormant bodies in the liver. I placed my hand on my own stomach and sensed the substances inside. It was easier because I had done it with the blood. There might still be malaria parasites in my stomach, but I'll trust Terit for now. Then, I placed my hand on Rico's stomach. She squirmed slightly, probably because it tickled, but soon got used to it and stopped moving. I checked Rico's liver cells and looked for anything different from mine. As I searched, I remembered the time I used magic to detect worms in the soil. The scale was different, but the method was the same. Calm down and search carefully. I crushed several microorganisms that looked like malaria parasites. There were fewer than 1,000, so it wasn't necessary to create a new spell. Telekinesis was enough. The task took about 30 seconds. Okay, that's it. I removed my hand and smiled. Rico finally seemed relieved and smiled weakly. Does this mean you're safe now? Yes, I think this has cured the malaria, the 3-day fever. The microorganisms were as I expected, and the symptoms were gone. It seems my hypothesis about malaria was correct. But what is it? Is there still something wrong? I braced myself. I don't have any money to pay you. Rico looked apologetic and spoke while looking down. Oh, that's it. I had braced for nothing. It's fine. I had my own reasons this time, so working for free is okay. I waved my hand, but Rico still seemed unconvinced and hesitated to speak. No, I will definitely repay you. Hero said firmly with a serious face. You saved us. I may be stupid, but I'm not so stupid that I'd forget someone who helped me. Forget it. Children grow up by relying on others. Children shouldn't have such responsibilities. It's normal for them to depend on their parents and surroundings and cause trouble. But Rico looked exasperated and said, "You're a child too, aren't you?" "Well, that's true. It's a sad fact. I left Hero's place. I'll go home today. I can continue the conversation with Gustav and report today's events tomorrow. I haven't used magic in a long time, and I'm extremely tired. My body doesn't seem tired, but I feel sleepy and exhausted. I returned to my place and lay down on the rubble. I think I'll sleep well tonight. Didn't I tell you not to fight?" Gustav was unusually stern. "I visited the stone shop to continue yesterday's conversation and was indeed scolded. I'm sorry. But I might have been killed if I didn't." Gustav sighed and scratched his temple with a troubled look. "Well, I know the circumstances. You fought with the explorers, too." He's well informed. The request to Rishit was to carry out vigilante justice on the slum residents. Really? It's that obvious? I investigated. I needed to confirm who the instigator was. The only person who comes to mind as the instigator is one person. Probably it's... Yes, you know. The blacksmith, Haman. As expected. Moreover, since I haven't walked around the city much, the only person who could have targeted me is Haman. He's a persistent and troublesome opponent. Indeed, it might have been better than you being killed, but it was still wrong to harm them. Is that so? Especially this time, the circumstances are different. Different? What's different? This time, you beat up Rishit and two blacksmiths, right? That's right. I nodded. Rishit is the better one. In fact, there's no problem at all. No problem. Why? You can beat up that blonde handsome guy and get away with it. Was he from the slums too? He's an explorer. Getting injured on the job is no problem. Besides, he lost to a kid like you. He can't afford to make a big fuss. To protect his honor, he'll keep quiet. Exactly. Gustav nodded quietly. So, the current story is that two blacksmiths were suddenly attacked by a slum resident. Rishit's existence is erased. He must have handled it himself. What a lot of work, Gustav said with a distant look. But, isn't this the same as last time, with the blacksmiths being attacked? Not this time. What's different? This time, Haman isn't involved. Without a bigwig, the incident seems smaller. I understand that the response changes depending on whether a prominent person is involved, but how does it get bigger without one? If Haman were involved, some suspicion would have fallen on him. Last time, many people thought he started the trouble. Wait, didn't Haman start it and get beaten up in return? Exactly. Like the slum residents, he has a bad reputation. So, the correct rumor this time is that innocent and good blacksmiths were severely injured by notorious slum thugs. Indeed, this is frustrating. Hero was the one who caused the situation by stealing and provoking a beating. But, in a situation where his bones were broken and his body was bruised, and he was almost killed, just retaliating led to this rumor. From the nature of the request, they probably hired a strong explorer and walked around the slums to encounter slum residents. They came prepared to harm us, and this is what happened when we retaliated. What kind of innocent blacksmiths are they? What kind of severe injuries? Hero's injuries were much worse. By the way, there's some bad news about this. Gustav took out a piece of paper and started talking as he unfolded it. What is it? Apparently, it's a problem for public safety if good blacksmiths keep getting injured. Right. Guards are going to search the slums. Really? Gustav continued, looking straight at me. He opened an ink bottle and dipped a quill pen into it. The quill pen spun around the mouth of the bottle as it was inserted. To put it simply, the guards are coming to catch you. Seriously. Guards armed with weapons will gather at my place to look for me. This situation reminds me of the time in Dina. Back then, I thought I might die. So, I have a suggestion. Gustav paused. Was he hesitating or being dramatic? I couldn't tell, as I'm not good at reading people's intentions. How about you just let yourself be caught? But I think Gustav was probably enjoying this situation. That's what I felt. One early morning, the guards crowded into the Pebble House. There should be a child with black hair about this tall here. Hand him over. The guards rudely opened the door of the Pebble House and said to Gustav in a domineering manner. Their silver armor covered the joints, torso, and head, and the connecting parts were made of leather. There were several of them, some holding spears, some shields, and some carrying large bags, but all of them had unapproachable faces. The shop owner welcomed them with a nervous hand-rubbing. Sir, what brings you here? I haven't dealt with any contraband for a while now. Didn't you hear? Hand over the child. The guard, speaking in a matter-of-fact and intimidating tone, struck the ground with his spear and slowly looked around the shop. He then fixed his gaze on the storage room behind Gustav and signaled to his subordinates with a hand gesture. All right, that's enough. We'll search the shop. Surely, you're not hiding anything, are you? Please stop. The child is behind the shop. He hid when you all arrived. The lead guard snorted and immediately ordered his subordinates to go to the back. Go. Though he's a child, he's a dangerous criminal who has attacked many people. If he resists, bring him in by force. At these words, several subordinates ran out of the shop. Sir. What about the search of the shop? There's no need anymore. Thanks for your cooperation, shop owner. The guard said this and threw a silver coin to Gustav. Thank you. Gustav received it respectfully. In the back of the shop, a child who could hardly be called a boy was surrounded by the guards. Hey, are you really taking this kid? Yeah, it seems so. Really, what strange things Bar does, huh? They expressed their confusion about what they had to do. Their orders from their superior, Bar, were to capture the child in the back of the shop and take him to the detention center. However, the child was just a child. They had imagined a child on the verge of adulthood. A dangerous criminal who had successfully attacked and assaulted many good citizens. They had imagined a criminal with a physique and demeanor indistinguishable from an adult, even if he was a child. Yes, I'll follow you. I understand. But the reality was different. The child in front of them was undoubtedly a child, not even 10 years old, weak and seemingly unable to distinguish right from wrong. It was impossible for this child to take on multiple adults. The guards, who had actually seen the child, were in agreement on this. What are you dawdling for? Take him. But in an organization, the orders of a superior are absolute. The subordinates had no choice but to follow the order given with a nod toward the street. Sorry, but it's the rules. While saying this, they tied the child with a rope. They bound his wrists behind his back and attached a rope to his waist to lead him. The sight of a criminal being led away was a kind of picture. The image of a criminal being led away while cursing or showing a look of despair was something familiar to the citizens. However, the sight of a child being led away with a smile, like a pet being taken for a walk, was very strange. Where are you taking me? Are we walking? The child's carefree voice, as if on a walk, added to the strangeness of the scene. The guards, bound by the rules, could only speak minimally when spoken to. Are you all really strong because you wear such strong armor? That's cool. What kind of training do you do? Do you fight with people? By the way, what are your names? As they passed through the slums, down the 12th Street, and along the edge of 5th Street to enter 6th Street to the south, the child's questions never stopped. The journey was about 3 kilometers, but the child's questions continued. What kind of famous bad people are there? Have you caught any? How do you get into First Street? The child's relentless questions drained the guard's morale. Hey, is this our destination? Thank you for the walk. The child called out in a carefree voice, as if not understanding the situation. The detention center was a stone building surrounded by a wall about 3 times the height of an adult. The wall was designed without any footholds, making it difficult to climb. There was a gate in the gap of the wall, and the guards led the child through it. Huh. A child. What's going on? The receptionist, who was inside, could not hide his surprise at the child the guards had brought. It's Bar's order. Ah, I see. With that, the receptionist stopped asking questions. He took a key from a bunch and threw it to the guard. The second room from the back of the basement. I feel sorry for the kid. Me too. Really, what is Bar thinking? The guard, who was about to respond to the receptionist's light-hearted comment, suddenly fell silent. The receptionist was looking at the entrance with a serious expression. Bar was slowly entering from there. Check his weapons and then detain him. I'll come later. Saying this, Bar went into the back room. It was originally a meeting room but had become Bar's private room. Understood. The guard, now serious, saluted. The child watched this with a smile. The search of the child's belongings was quickly over. The child was wearing a blue-dyed shirt of unknown origin and leather boots. That was all. The child, who had obediently submitted to the search, was looking around the unfamiliar room with curiosity. The guard left him alone, thinking it was just a matter of curiosity, but now he couldn't leave him unattended. All right, follow me downstairs. Go into that room and stay there, okay? Saying this in a persuasive tone, the guard loosely held the child's waist rope and led him. The child obediently followed. The sound of footsteps echoed on the stone floor. The damp basement detention center was lined with rooms for particularly rebellious prisoners. Tools to make rebellious attitudes more docile were also available. The long corridor was dimly lit, with only a small amount of light coming from above. In the almost sealed space, it seemed that no one would hear even if one shouted. Maybe this isn't what I expected. The child's softly spoken words sounded like a faint mutter to the guard. Since it didn't seem particularly important, the guard ignored it and didn't stop walking. Here we are. The room the child was led to was, as instructed, the second room from the back. The walls were stained as if something had splattered, and it was far from clean. The guard, who felt the same way the child did, frowned. Sorry, this isn't a place for a child like you. But you will be out soon, so hang in there. If I have time, I'll bring you something. As they parted, the guard said these kind words to the child. The child looked at the guard's face intently. Then, with a slight smile, he said brightly, "You're different, aren't you?"
PMITV audiobook.
The guard didn't understand the meaning of these words. Then the door was closed with a loud thud. In the room with no movement, the child sat down. His eyes were bright, and there was no sign of confusion. He continued to think, planning the next steps smoothly. The child, sensing someone's presence, looked toward the door. The area outside the door suddenly became noisy. Then, the door was roughly opened. A middle-aged man with an oily face slowly entered. "Well, you seem to be in good spirits." "Thanks to you." The child responded with a light-hearted comment and looked behind the middle-aged man. There, Bar was also present. "Well, I did as you said and caught him, but is this really the right child?" "It is. He's the brat who made a fool of me." Heyman, rubbing his hands, affirmed. He hadn't forgotten the humiliation inflicted on him by this child. And because of this child, many craftsmen had been injured. Heyman, having put aside the fact that he had incited his own craftsman, was burning with righteous indignation. Well, brat. When you do something bad, you have to reflect on it first, don't you? Haman sat down in front of the child and glared at him. I haven't done anything wrong. However, the child said this with a smile. Irritated by these words, Haman slapped the child's head. The child fell to the floor silently. But Haman was laughing at the sight. Ha ha, that's what you get for making fun of adults. The child, still bound, skillfully got up and looked at Haman. Then he laughed. Beating up a defenseless child, from a safe distance, and only to this extent. Ha! Haman narrowed his eyes and punched the child's nose. The strange hardness of the impact puzzled him for a moment, but the excitement of hurting a hated child overrode that. However, the child still laughed. Ah ha ha, making fun of adults, ha! What do you mean? Haman tried to slap the child's head again. A sharp pain ran through his palm. The child didn't move at all. What is an adult, anyway? The child slowly stood up. Is an adult just someone with a big body? Is an adult just someone stronger than a child? By now, the bindings on his hands had been undone. At the very least. The child looked straight at Haman. I don't want to call someone who can't be a role model for children an adult. The unusual atmosphere made Haman stand up. Bar was also silently on guard. What the hell? Haman, frozen in shock, was looked at with a look of weariness. The child's face no longer had a smile. Good night. In an instant, the child moved in front of Haman and pressed a palm strike to his solar plexus. In the next moment, Haman collapsed. He was foaming at the mouth and rolling his eyes. You bastard. Ba, who had been like a ghost, finally moved to subdue the child. He picked up a spear from the wall and, with a fluid motion, aimed it at the child's shoulder. The child easily dodged and slammed it to the ground, breaking it. Ba was surprised by the strength but, as a god, he immediately picked up another spear. However, he noticed something strange as he raised it. The tip of the spear had cleanly broken off and fallen to the ground. Using weapons is useless. The child said this and slowly extended his hand toward Ba. Just before his hand touched Ba's body, Ba jumped back. Then he ran down the corridor. Prisoner is resisting. Urgent. Urgent. Arm and assemble. Ba shouted as he fled. This was all part of the plan by the child and Gustav. Found him. Hold your positions. Armed guards quickly assembled. As the child walked calmly toward the exit, he was surrounded in the square in front of the stairs. Looking around at the more than 30 armed guards with spears, the child smiled and said, I don't have a grudge against most of you, but I'll have to push through forcefully. Hearing this, the armed guards tilted their heads. A weak-looking child surrounded by armed adults should be more afraid. Or, why were they surrounding such a child in the first place? Such a child could be subdued without weapons or a large number of people. Confusion spread among the armed guards. But Ba shouted, Feel free to injure him. Capture him. They couldn't disobey their superior's orders. Hesitantly, the armed guards pounced on the child. The armed guards' memories of that day ended there. Ba, his legs giving out, groaned. More than 30 armed guards had been swept away by this child. The sight of the fallen guards was gruesome. There didn't seem to be any dead, but the armor was dented, and the floor and walls were cracked. It was hard to believe this was real. I'll leave you here. And this one. The child, who had been dragging someone, threw him in front of Ba. With a thud, Haman rolled to a stop. Choose your friends wisely. Saying this, the child walked out boldly. Ba couldn't move for a while. I walked out of the detention room. The sun had already risen, and townspeople were beginning to appear on the streets. there was no problem with walking back. I didn't remember the way, but I knew the direction. I would manage somehow. If I got lost, I could just fly in the sky. I continued walking, passing by people. No one suspected me. Although I was somewhat dirty, I looked like an ordinary child. No one would think that I had just caused a ruckus at the guard post. However, if the guard's miserable state was discovered, there might be a commotion. I had to leave before that happened. If I could return without any issues, then Gustav's plan could be considered a success. I hoped this audacious plan would succeed. What do you mean by surrendering willingly? At first, I couldn't accept this proposal. Was I going to be sold to Gustav? No, that was unlikely. Indeed, if it were profitable, Gustav would sell me without hesitation. I thought he was that kind of person. However, it seemed I was valued by Gustav, and he didn't seem to expect my resistance. If he were to make an announcement, he would have restrained me first. Then, what was his intention? I looked at Gustav intently to gauge his reaction. Ignoring my gaze, Gustav said as if giving advice. Just as I said. When the guards come, go with them
PMITV
quietly.
audiobook.
But that means I'll let them put out the fire. Gustav smiled with a wicked expression. First, listen to what you have to do. I'll explain the details later. I understand. I wasn't sure if I would accept it, but I decided to listen. The guards will come early in the morning of a nearby day. I'll let you know the exact date the day before. When the guards come, hide in the back. I'll guide them there. You mean, the pile of rubble? Yes, just stay there. Gustav started testing the feather pen on the edge of the paper he had spread out. Dissatisfied with the thickness of the line, he took a knife from the shelf and began to sharpen the pen. After that, you will probably be taken to the detention room. It might not be a detention room, but anywhere the guards gather will do. Follow them without resistance until then. He swept the shavings off the desk. Then, he drew a spiral again, seemingly satisfied, and returned the ink bottle. What will happen there? If I were suddenly sentenced to a beating, it would be unbearable. Well, with the presence of good guards, you will probably be detained in a room first. His words implied that there were also bad guards. That's where it gets important. I'll draw a simple floor plan. Saying this, he began to draw a neat floor plan on the paper without a ruler or template, combining straight lines skillfully. As he drew, he provided explanations. Large rooms and wide corridors where many people can gather are around here. Most of the guards gather here. The windows are in this direction, and their size is. It was as if he was describing something he had seen. He gave a detailed explanation, and I had to concentrate to remember it all. You'll probably be detained in this room or this one. There's also a possibility of this underground room. Is the location of this room so important? Yes, of course. He raised his face and relaxed his cheeks. No doubt, he was enjoying it. Once you're detained, Heyman and another guard named Bar will probably come to see you. Be polite to them. I don't want to. It was my honest feeling. Probably not. So, when those two are together, you can stop pretending to be a compliant child. So, I can resist. Yes, go wild. But don't kill anyone. I understood. I nodded. Let one of them go, preferably Ba. Let him go. Yes. He will gather other guards. Another unclear part emerged. If he escapes and gathers armed guards, you will be surrounded inside the building, probably around the square. He pointed to the map and drew a circle with his finger. Knock them all down. Do it as dramatically as possible. I can do it if you tell me to, but is it really okay to do that? This would make it seem like the virtuous guards were attacked by a vicious slum dweller. It's fine. After all, some of them, including Ba, are not virtuous. We'll use that. A chuckle echoed. The term evil plot suited it well. Once you knock them down, just walk back normally. If you don't arouse suspicion, your job is done. Let me summarize. So, if I surrender and enter the detention room, then destroy the gods, including Haman and Ba, and return, that's it. That's right. It's simple, isn't it? It's not impossible, but it depends on whether there's a strong person. No need to worry about that. Gustav nodded confidently. They don't have the strength to restrain Rashid. They can't use combat skills or magic well. You, who are stronger than Rashid, can easily eliminate them. He capped the ink bottle and washed the feather pen in a water-filled bottle. The water turned black immediately. I understand what I have to do. But there are still many things I don't understand. Why are we doing this series of actions? At this, Gustav continued as if he had realized something. I told you, to make the gods put out the fire of these rumors. Will the gods do it voluntarily? Not the gods, but Bar and his cronies. Rashid, after being defeated by you, erased his existence from the rumors. To protect his reputation. Bad rumors would hinder his next job. We'll make Bar do the same. Gustav wiped the tip of the feather pen with a worn-out cloth, leaving black stains. If you knock down the gods and do nothing, the details of the incident will spread. The gods at this post are so weak that they were defeated by a child. It will be the truth. Yes, but that's inconvenient. So, we'll erase the rumors. We'll make it seem like the incident never happened. A corrupt and bribed Bar will find it easy to come up with this idea. But that alone won't. It won't affect the previous two incidents. That alone won't do anything. So, we'll help a bit. We'll spread the rumor that the culprit of the recent attack was taken away by the gods. It's the truth, and the gods will be seen. It will become a topic quickly. I see. In other words, we'll create a situation where the culprit was taken away, but there's no sign of punishment, and the culprit's condition is unknown. And further, the culprit was a small child, and the gods were easily defeated. We'll connect the series of incidents and turn them into an impossible story. A small child caused multiple attacks and then defeated the gods and escaped. It's almost the truth. But even so, those who don't want the truth to be known will cling to it. Since it's impossible, it didn't happen. They'll conclude it that way. And I'll do some work behind the scenes to make it happen. We both took a deep drink of water and exhaled. Well, I've explained this much, but whether you do it or not is up to you. You can run away if you want. If you don't want to fight, that's fine too. He said this, but he probably already knew my answer. This old man is cunning and smart. He can easily see through my shallow thoughts. And this plan must benefit Gustav in some way. I don't know what it is, but that's why he revealed the plan to me. So, it will surely succeed. But the search itself is initiated by Haman bribing Ba. They are close friends. Bribing to get favors is a common practice. So, even if you run away, it will continue. Probably many times. You don't have to say that much. It's fine. I will let them, who altered the rumors, erase them with their own hands. It will be satisfying. There's no reason not to do it. I'll do it, so I'll take this floor plan. I will enjoy it too. And the plan was put into action. All that's left is to return and hear the outcome. I pray for its success. Depending on the person, it might be a chest-churning development. Have you returned? As soon as I arrived at the pebble shop, Gustav greeted me with these words. He took his eyes off the stack of papers in his hands and confirmed my presence. Are you not injured? No, not at all. Of course not. Apart from the slap I deliberately received from Haman, no one else even touched me. How about your side? It's all arranged without any issues. He smiled and gave a thumbs up, showing a confident and reliable face. According to the report I just received, it seems that the healer Bar called is currently treating the guards in the detention center. Already leaking to the outside. If the guards' total annihilation is known by the healer, it might spread. If they want to keep it hidden, they might send the guards to the hospital in small groups with some excuse. No. If ordinary healers were called, it might leak. But the one called is someone under Bar's influence. Moreover, he called someone off duty, so it's safe to assume they are trying to cover it up. I see. Bar seems more capable than me when it comes to covering things up. Well, then we just wait for the results. Although, it's unlikely we'll get a clear one. Eliminating the incident is hard to define clearly. If most of the town believes it was a false alarm, it can be considered almost successful. If Bar can't handle it, I will. Gustav said this while gathering the papers. He meant it, he would take care of it. By the way, as a precaution, you should hide for a while. Why? Given the rumors already circulating, you should understand how to eliminate the incident, right? Impose a gag order to prevent the spread of information, create a distraction with a different major event, or spread a slightly different story, something like that. That's all I can think of right now. I haven't done it before, so I'm not confident. That's correct, but there's one more point. He gave a thumbs up and made a slicing gesture across his throat, which seems to have the same meaning as on Earth. Preventing the spread of information can be easily done by eliminating those involved. Gustav rolled up the papers, tied them with a string, and sealed them with wax. It was an expensive seal. In this case, the guards and the victimized craftsmen can be handled by their authority. I can handle it within my capabilities. A gag order should be enough. Will you do it yourself? Of course. I'm just a poor shopkeeper in the slums. He said this with a face that didn't even hint at it. The problem is those at the center of the incident who can disappear without causing any issues. In this case, you, Nevsky, and Rashid. None of us seem likely to spread the news. I think so, but they won't see it that way. He probably means Heyman and Ba. They'll think you're trying to profit from the incident. They assume everyone thinks like they do. It's a characteristic of short-sighted people. I tilted my head slightly. Aren't you underestimating them? They are people who have risen to positions of power and accomplished things. They can't be short-sighted. That's why I did this much. Huh. I didn't understand the meaning of that small whisper. Anyway, you and the others are at risk of being targeted. They might try to eliminate you for real this time. Hide for a while, about 2 weeks should be enough. Should I just stay out of sight? Probably back to the slums. It's the same as usual, so it won't be inconvenient. However, Gustav shook his head. I thought I saw a hint of regret in his eyes. It's not enough. The slums are not suitable for avoiding their attention. He took out a rolled paper from the side, unfolded it, and showed it to me. There's a cabin in the forest. Take a short vacation there. A map of the area around the city, with a mark on it. It's a bit far, but near a stream and in a place where people rarely go. That's fine, but there's nothing to do there. I'll just live as usual, but the location will be a bit more remote. No problem. However, without work, it sounds boring. Recently, I've always been giving you prey. You might think so. I took enough time to memorize the location, and he rolled up the paper again. He didn't give me the map. But if anything happens to you, it would be a significant loss for me. Consider this a request from me. Even if I disappear, it won't cause any problems. Gustav remained silent in response to my words. It's overprotective. As the conversation paused and became quiet, voices from the other side of the door could be heard. It was almost noon. It's not unusual for customers to visit the shop during working hours. However, the voices didn't enter the shop and only showed shadows under the door. What's going on? Who knows? I think it's overcautious, but I just heard that I might be targeted. I leaned against the wall and braced myself. I extended my magic and searched outside the door. Two small figures were visible. It was Halo and Rico. It's Halo and Rico. I said this to Gustav, who sighed and nodded toward the door. Open it for them. Sure. I slowly opened the door. The two were frozen in surprise. What's wrong? Just come in. Oh. Excuse us. They moved together and awkwardly walked to Gustav. You don't seem to have brought any goods today. Upon hearing this, I noticed they were indeed empty-handed. What could it mean? Halo and Rico looked at each other, took a deep breath, and nodded. Halo then spoke hesitantly. We came to consult something. Gustav thought for a moment, then nodded and encouraged him to continue. Halo's hand was trembling. We want you to introduce us to some work. After saying this, he looked at Gustav with a sense of accomplishment. Their gazes met, and the atmosphere in the room froze. This is the first time. What's the reason? We discussed it together. He said this and then hesitated. Rico also started to speak, as if to help. I think my illness is due to our current lifestyle. You're not living poorly, are you? No, but... He slowly looked at me. He blinked slowly and then turned back to Gustav. If we only think about today, we won't be prepared for anything that happens tomorrow. Rico smiled bitterly and looked down. I'm not as smart as Rico, and I can't make as much money as he can. Then, Halo took over. Is this what it means to be in sync? It was unrelated to their conversation, but I was impressed. I was frustrated and couldn't do anything, so I just got in his way to feel like I was doing something. Hold on. There's something that caught my attention. But this time, he saved us. Both Rico and I were helpless, but he easily saved us. He continued sadly, but there was something that caught my attention more. Wait a minute. The attention turned to me as I spoke. I felt the pressure but couldn't back down. What do you mean by getting in my way? Halo looked apologetic and answered. I did various things. I spread the rumor that the meat sold by the crow guy, no, the crow, was crow meat and harassed him. I'm sorry. I didn't know about that. In response to my words, Gustav opened his mouth in exasperation. Didn't you notice? No wonder he was kind to you. Ah. So the reason the bird meat wasn't selling was because of that. Such a trivial reason. Gustav scratched his head and tried to mediate. Well, you learned how troublesome rumors can be. That's true. My cheeks puffed up unconsciously. Well, thanks to that, I could deal with the jade and the needlefish. It wasn't all bad. Plus, he apologized sincerely. I'll forgive him. No more, okay. I said this with a smile, and Halo nodded. He pressed his own arm and nodded repeatedly. There's one more thing I'm curious about. Who is the crow selling meat? Halo asked, shuddered as if scared and looked down, speaking in a small voice. Well, I always called him the crow guy, but I thought adding guy made it sound mocking. Why is he using polite language? His voice gradually became smaller and finally stopped. Crow, that's a good name. Gustav interjected. A good name? Yes, a name. You didn't have a name, did you? I thought about it. Come to think of it, I've never had a proper name. People just call me you or kid or you. Come to think of it, you have memories from birth. Do you have a name? I shook my head silently. There was no time for that. I was alone soon after I was born. Then, why not? Names in the slums are all arbitrary. Halo, Rico, and Nixki all got their names based on their appearance or actions. Is that how it works? That's how it is. If that's the norm, then that's how it is. Halo and Rico held their breath, as if waiting for my reaction. I repeated it in my mind. Crow, crow, yeah, not bad. By the standards of my past life, it's not a proper name. It's born from a derogatory term, which is a bit concerning. But if I use this name, I can introduce myself with pride. My name is Crow. Yeah, it feels right. Do you not like it? Halo asked hesitantly. For some reason, I found it a bit amusing. Polite language doesn't suit you. It's fine. At least I have a name now. My name. It's a sufficient thank you for healing my injuries. At least to me. It's a simple name, but I'll try it out for a while. If I don't like it, I'll change it immediately. I have that freedom. I was given a name. Although I didn't like it much that it was Hero who came up with it, it was Gustav who suggested using it as a name. I should think of Gustav as my name giver. I don't like it much, but if I think of it that way, it's probably fine. I don't like it much, though. Sorry for interrupting. Please continue. By the way, Hero and Rico were in the middle of a job consultation. I reminded them to continue before I forgot. Is there really a waste in a story? It means stopping the story in the middle. Hero's whisper to Rico was endearing. Gustav snorted when he saw them. So, that guy wants a job because he was saved by a crow. My name being used right away, it's still hard to get used to. It feels unreal. Yeah. We also want the power to help ourselves. We can't use magic like a crow, but if we can earn money, we can manage somehow. We want to do something. We think we can do something. We want to be able to think about tomorrow with a smile without causing trouble to others. Do what you can, huh? Gustav turned around. Perhaps he didn't want Hero and Rico to see his expression. However, the side of his face visible from the side seemed to be smiling. Well, it's common for people to change their minds when they are about to die, but you guys are too extreme. When he turned back to Hero and Rico, his expression was back to neutral. He must not want his smile to be seen. I quietly chuckled, and a protesting glance was sent my way. Hero and Rico probably didn't notice. Can you pay the fee? When Gustav said this, Hero and Rico froze. They hadn't thought about it at all, apparently. How much do we need? It depends on the job I introduce, but let's say 2 copper coins. Huh. That much? Rico exclaimed in surprise. Well, that's about it. It can be higher or lower depending on the job. The issue is what you can do. What can you do? Gustav said this and silently stared at Hero and Rico. The scene felt like an interview, and I couldn't help but feel a bit amused. I can run fast. Hero said this almost shouting. I can run as fast as a thief, not losing to adults, and I can run through a crowd without bumping into anyone. He said this with a heavy breath, puffed out his chest, and then fell silent. Surely, that was the end of his pitch. I can, what? It was supposed to be Rico's turn, but it didn't seem to be. I don't have any special skills. I'm not as strong as Hero, and I can't use magic like Crow. But... He paused, thinking hard. He must be trying to think of something he has, something he might be better at than others. Well, deciding the distribution and storage of food with Hero was my job. I think I can plan things. Gustav, who had been listening to the two of them silently, closed one eye and spoke. You two, that's all you can do. He folded his arms and thought. What should I interpret this as? Is he considering rejecting them? Or is he thinking about what jobs to introduce? I can't tell. Anyway, come back tomorrow. I'll think of something by then. The answer was positive. Is that okay? Have I ever refused a deal for reasons other than payment? He said this to Riko, as if to advise her. Indeed, this shopkeeper will do anything for money. But the payment. Hiro was interrupted, and Gustav continued. I'll take a part of the reward you receive. That should be fine. But that. It's better for me too, so I don't miss out. Then, he smiled at them, probably for the first time. See you, Crow-san. See you, Crow-kun. The consultation was settled. Apparently, they will be introduced to some workplace tomorrow. It's a job. To prepare for tomorrow, they left early to rest. Is it unusual to allow payment later? If payment later was possible, the previous situation would have been quite different. Specifically, Riko's medicine could have been handled on the spot. If they had been allowed to pay in installments, they could have managed to pay 3 silver coins. It's no big deal. Again, you're being kind. I praised him, but Gustav's expression didn't change. I can get more money by taking a part of the reward over a longer period than by getting a few copper coins. That's all. I see. Probably the truth. By the way, those 2 will be employed now, right? Yeah. Does that mean they will be apprentices at some store? Broadly speaking, yes. Gustav nodded as if it was obvious. But if that's the case, there's a question. When I asked about employment before, apprenticeships at stores other than family businesses were only for adults. However, they are clearly not adults. Since they're not adults, they shouldn't be able to get jobs, right? That's it. He opened a bottle and answered while bringing it to his mouth. It's simple. They're not actually employed by the store. What do you mean? I asked Gustav, who took a sip of water, for more details. Is it something easy to understand? They're helpers sent from my pebble shop. Are they employed by the pebble shop, and as part of their job, they go to the store to help and bring back their wages? That's right. You catch on quick. I see. They are employed as dispatched workers. Then, what about me? Just so you know, you're not useful. Why not? My words were preempted and crushed. Why can't I do it? Because you're too small. Again, it's an age issue. I sighed. But if that's the case, Hiro and Riko. That's right, we were in the middle of that conversation. What conversation? Last time, I said you could become an explorer in 5 years. Oh, that conversation. It was a conversation that had been left hanging after Riko's 3-day fever and the incident with the guards. I had been worried about it, but I had forgotten about it. How old do you think Hiro and Riko are? 7 or 8 years old. They were a bit older than me. I had always thought so. But thinking about it, I realized that I, as a child of this age, speak and act more maturely than most. Could it be? They are about 11 years old. Really? They look young. No, they look like children. Kids who live in poverty like that are usually small. Well, that's true. I remembered Riko's thin, small body when I touched her stomach. Indeed, her ribs were prominent. So they look younger than their actual age. Rather, it's abnormal for you to be growing normally. Is it a food issue? I don't think I've ever gone hungry. It might be. Well, you could probably pass for 8 or 9 years old without anyone noticing. So, when I get a bit older. Yes, it should be possible to join the Explorers Guild. Good news. I thought I had to wait 5 years, but it can be shortened. Soon, I can look down on ordinary citizens. It's a small goal when said out loud, but it's close to my life goal for now. The time to reach that goal has been shortened. I should be happy. Seeing my beaming face, Gustav's expression softened. Hiro and Riko should smile more openly too. Coughing once, Gustav returned to his neutral expression. Getting back to the topic, go to the hideout as soon as possible, preferably today or tomorrow. Is the smile over? Maybe it's only for long-term acquaintances, but he's a person with a changeable expression. I understand. Just to be safe, I'll go now. I have a vague memory of the map to the hideout. I'm not sure, but I should be able to find it when I get there. Yeah, do that. He said this as if giving an order and then picked up a bundle of documents to put them away in the warehouse. But I still have one more thing to ask. I called out to his profile. And there's one thing I need you to get for me. What is it? Gustav turned around while holding the documents. I have 2 weeks of free time. I should use this opportunity to study various things. Gustav promised to bring the item to the hideout once he got it. It looks like I'll have a good time to kill. Relying on vague memories, I proceeded through the forest. I have been to the forest many times, but this direction to the southeast is my first time. The cabin is supposed to be downstream of the river that runs north-south on the east side of the town, a bit away from the town. To be honest, if I wanted to hide, the invisibility spell would be enough. Even in the usual town, no one would notice me if I was invisible, as long as I didn't come into contact with someone with combat aura. I think it would be easier to do it that way, but there is a reason for coming this far. I wanted time and a place. Time and a place to study. By the way, when the forest was searched by the hunters, how did Dina know where I was? The invisibility spell was working, and I hadn't used my combat aura at the time. Is there some trick to see through it? It's a mystery. There was supposed to be a large tree as a landmark, and the cabin was supposed to be at the midpoint between that tree and the river. I clung to the faint memory. But it wasn't there. I pushed through the bushes, searching for something that looked like it, but I couldn't see the cabin even through the gaps between the trees. Maybe I misread the map. I should have brought a memo or something. But this place is like a safe house, and it's not good to leave too many clues about its location. That's probably why Gustav didn't give me a map. I rose into the air and looked around. I thought I could find it from the sky, but I couldn't see it through the branches. No wonder Gustav chose it as a hideout. Should I go back to the shop and try to get the map? I thought about it, but I couldn't go back. It would be embarrassing to return saying I couldn't find it. There's no choice but to search systematically. I spread my magic to its limits to grasp the surroundings. I could feel every leaf on the trees, but that didn't matter now. I didn't even know what a cabin looked like, but I would recognize a building with living space. I flew around aimlessly, as if I were mopping the forest. This is a large rock. This has space, but it's a hollow in a tree. No, that's not it. After searching, I finally found it. It was a low building, hidden from view by the surrounding trees and covered by the branches of tall trees. The building was made of stone and covered with vines. The walls looked green due to the vines and resembled a large moss-covered rock. However, upon closer inspection, it clearly had windows, a chimney, and a door, making it a proper cabin. Wow, what a great place! I couldn't help but let out a sigh of admiration. The inside of the cabin was in pretty good condition. Although it was covered in dust, there were no signs of leaks or damage. Someone must come regularly to maintain it. When I closed the door, it became pitch black inside. At least there were windows, so I could get some light. I lit a light at my fingertips and moved to the window. There was a wooden sliding door on the inside of the fixed window, blocking the light. This was probably to prevent light from leaking out at night. I found a table and sat in the chair next to it. When I ran my finger across the table, it turned black with dust. First, I need to clean up. I went to a nearby stream to fetch water. The bucket was inside the cabin and was also dusty, but it cleaned up quickly with water. The water in the stream was already cold, probably due to the cooling temperatures. I soaked a rag in the water and wiped the visible areas. My hands ached from the cold water. After washing the rag 3 times, the water turned black. Each time, I had to fetch more water and diligently clean the dust. After several trips, I realized something. I could use magic to produce water. Once I realized this, it was quick. Thinking about it, I didn't need to drink the water, I just needed enough to soak the rag. There was no problem using magic to wet the rag, and the water produced by magic would quickly evaporate. In other words, even if I flooded the cabin with water magic, it would dry up as soon as I stopped supplying magic. The high-pressure water jet was the way to go. I didn't even need a rag. I sprayed water from my fingertips to wash the walls and table. It was fascinating to watch the dirt wash away and dry up from the wet areas. Once I disposed of the debris that had washed down, it was done. Maybe I could become a cleaner. Although it wasn't as good as a new building, I was satisfied with the clean cabin. This is great. I could have used it as a place to sleep in the slums. No one heard my muttered words. The cleaning of the living space was done, and now I needed to secure food. Gustav said he would sell it cheaply, but I declined, thinking I could get it from the forest. The work itself was the same as usual. I thought I would catch and cook some fish from the nearby river. By the time I thought about catching and cooking fish, it was already getting dark. As usual, it was time to sleep. I bit into the fish head first, discarded the stick it was skewered on, and lay down on the blanket. I woke up when the sun rose. What a healthy life I lead. I stretched and took a deep breath, and my body creaked. Maybe it was because I wasn't used to the bed, even though the building itself was much better than where I usually slept. What should I have for breakfast? I washed my face with water and took a breath. When I stepped outside the cabin and looked around, the forest spread out before me. I could hear the birds without even straining my ears. I'll have birds for lunch today. First, breakfast. Thinking about fish or birds, nothing caught my eye. I casually approached a nearby tree, but the fruit had already ripened and fallen, leaving only leaves. It's troublesome to prepare birds for breakfast, and there are no fruits. There's no choice. I'll have fish again. Just as I turned to go, something moved at the edge of my vision. Something was on the leaves. A hole in the leaf, and a white body wriggling on it. A caterpillar. Looking closely, they seemed to be clustered everywhere. Silkworms are said to have been completely domesticated, leading to the extinction of wild ones, but they still exist in this world. Good. Breakfast won't be fish again. After about a day of starting this life, I was burying the leftover bones and innards from the grilled bird when a visitor arrived. Nice to see you again. Nixky appeared quietly in front of the cabin, greeted me briefly, and handed me a small package. Hello. Is this what I asked for? Yeah. He said that, and as I took the package, he took out a piece of paper. Sign here to confirm receipt. Do you have something to write with? I searched my memory. I was sure I had found some bamboo pens when I cleaned the cabin yesterday. I think there was also an ink bottle. Please wait a moment. I'll go find it. Realizing it might be rude to leave him standing, I thought it was a good opportunity to ask some questions. No, please come in. I can't offer much, but it's fine here. This cabin is designed to be invisible from the outside. It seemed he had no intention of moving from the entrance. I decided to be honest. I have some questions, so please come in. I'll need a table to write on. He sighed and slowly stepped into the room. Here it is. I'll sign my name first. I dipped the pointed end of the stick into the ink bottle to soak it up. Then, I paused. What should I write here? I quickly realized. I had a name given to me last time. But there was still a problem. Nixky frowned and raised an eyebrow. I want to write crow, but how do you spell it? I can read and speak, but I'm not confident in spelling. I have a guess, but I don't want to get it wrong. Nixky snorted and held out his hand. Let me see. He took the pen from my hand and wrote on the table. Copy this. The spelling he wrote was the same as my guess. It was correct. Thank you. I thanked him and dipped the pen in the ink bottle again. I tried to write it as it was spelled. However, it was a bit difficult. I couldn't control the amount of ink. If I wrote too quickly, it would smudge, and if I wrote too slowly, it would form a blot. I struggled to write it. My first attempt at writing my name was awkward, but I could confidently read it as Crow. I have indeed received it. I handed him the receipt, which he folded and put in his pocket. So, what do you want to ask? Gustav. At the mention of Gustav, Nixky seemed to sit up straight. The reason Gustav was so harsh with Haman and the others. It's a small thing, but I want to clear up my doubts. Even if you ask me, I think there are many things I don't understand. Nixky humbly says this, but he has known them longer than I have. He knows more than I do. That's for sure. Still, you know more than I do. I pause for a moment before asking my question. Wasn't the attack on the detention center this time a bit extreme? Extreme. Indeed, it does seem like Gustav is making things bigger than necessary. He looks down at the table. But, it's something he did. Maybe this was the most efficient way to handle it. I suppose, but I think it would have been much simpler to just cut me loose. Or, if he had let me escape, it wouldn't have been so much trouble. Letting me escape would have been fine. If the resources I gather are so valuable, there are hideouts like this one. We could use this place for transactions. Eventually, I could return to the city. So, you're saying Gustav deliberately chose an inefficient method to harm the gods? That's how it seems to me. Of course, there might be a flaw in my thinking. In fact, that's more likely. But if that fair-minded old man acted out of personal feelings, it would be a bit of an interesting story. I realize as I think this that it's just a question out of curiosity. It's a bit unfair to Nixky, who has been accompanying me, but even if I don't get an answer, it's not a problem. Or maybe Gustav has some bad feelings towards Babel Haman. Do they hate each other? Did they say it clearly? No, it's just a feeling I got. He once said something unnecessarily bad, which was unusual for him. Crossing his arms, Nixky closes his eyes. After thinking for a moment, he starts speaking slowly. Gustav has people he dislikes too. Really? He seems to know something. I heard a bit about it before. It was when I had been an explorer for about 10 years. An incident happened. Incident? Yes, a common incident. In the city, a poor district resident tried to help a woman who was being attacked by thugs, but ended up being beaten instead. That's not a common incident I'd like to hear about. Looking into the distance, Nixky speaks as if muttering. But, it's a common occurrence for poor district residents to be beaten. That day, the poor district resident, a man named Galax, was on his way home from work. Hearing a sudden scream, he peeked into an alley and discovered a woman being assaulted by thugs. Galax was a man with a strong sense of justice. Not only that, he was a good guy. He had a good reputation at his workplace, and despite living in the poor district, he never lacked work. He made a living by doing things like cleaning in front of stores, repainting signs, and repairing roofs. That's the kind of man he was. When Galax discovered the woman, he confronted the thugs. Stop it. What are you doing? Stop it. Thanks to Galax's intervention, the woman managed to escape. It would have been fine if it had ended there. If Galax had escaped, and everything had returned to normal, it would have been fine. The thugs, angry at Galax, beat him up. Galax fought back and managed to drive them away, but he was seriously injured. It was a terrible sight. His whole body was bruised, and his clothes were stained dark. That day ended there. That day, Galax, barely alive, returned to the poor district and was arrested by the guards the next day. The charge was an attempted assault on the women. The roles of the perpetrator and the victim were reversed in the guards' report. Galax was said to have tried to assault the women, and his injuries were from the men who tried to stop him. Gustav, who was already the owner of the stone house at the time, protested. Galax isn't that kind of person. If you investigate properly, you'll find the opposite. But his protests were dismissed with the reasoning that the word of a poor district resident can't be trusted. Galax's injuries worsened during the interrogation.
PMITV audiobook.
He had internal injuries from the previous day, but the main cause was the guards' aggressive interrogation. As a result, Galax died. The women who escaped and the thugs who attacked her are now unknown. After finishing the story, Nevsky closed his mouth. It's a terrible incident, but what does it have to do with anything? At the time, Gustav was unusually upset. Galax was one of his favorites. I can't imagine Gustav losing his composure, but apparently, he did. He got drunk and complained to me. He said he hated them. He hated the villains who pretend to be righteous and don't see reality, and he kept repeating it. So, those are the people Gustav hates. Yes. I only saw Gustav drunk once in the past 50 years. The people he hates are the villains who pretend to be righteous and don't see reality, which in this case means the guards who don't investigate properly. So, it's not Barb or Haman, but the guards he hates. That's probably part of it. It made some sense. And he also said, if they don't uphold justice, then I'll be the villain. So, I won't forgive those who pretend to be righteous and do bad things. That's a line I can't imagine coming from the current Gustav. Nevsky nods. Gustav and I were both young back then. The villains who pretend to be righteous and do bad things fit Haman and Ba. So, they were right in the middle of the people Gustav hates. I see, it makes sense. This time, they touched Gustav's sore spot. Looking back, that's what it was. Nevsky also seemed impressed, twisting his lips. What does I'll be the villain mean? I don't know the exact meaning either. It's a story from 30 years ago. I'm not even sure if he really said it. He paused, looking at the corner of the room and thinking. Then, as if his thoughts had solidified, he turned to me and said, probably, he wants to control the crimes committed by the poor district residents. Control crimes. It sounds like a criminal organization. Using us, the explorers and merchants from the poor district, to interfere with crimes committed by people outside the poor district. And to fund crimes committed by poor district residents. He might have bought stolen goods from thieves. Funding. So, dealing with stolen goods and contraband is part of it. If we buy stolen goods at higher prices than others, all stolen goods will end up at the stone house. If we sell them cheaply, no one will buy stolen goods elsewhere. Eventually, all criminals will rely on the stone house. Then, no one outside the stone house will get involved in crime. That's a profitless approach. Acting as a villain to force others to be good, without considering profit. It's hard to imagine from the current Gustav. Well, this is just my guess. He might not have thought about it at all. The boy, you said Crow, right? I don't know what Crow is thinking. Nevsky stands up, straightening his cloak. Do you have any thoughts about Gustav from this incident? No. It's just curiosity. Crow, like Galax, is one of Gustav's favorites. His gaze, which is fixed on me, shows no emotion. His brown eyes catch me straight on. So, don't die. Of course, I have no intention of dying. I answered immediately. Satisfied with my answer, Nevsky smiles and pulls his hood over his face. I've said too much. See you later. He opens the door and disappears into the forest in an instant. Alone in the cabin, I feel drained and stare blankly at the wall. Out of curiosity, I learn it about an incident from the past. The story seemed to veer off track at times, but I feel like I understand the general situation. But I don't really know. The latter part of Gustav's thoughts is mostly Nixky's speculation. I have no intention of asking Gustav about the details. The slight sense of unease I felt about Gustav being strict with Haman and the others seems to touch on some serious matters. I can't delve into them. I'm just a regular customer at the stone house. It's something I can forget. I'll try not to think about it. Consciously trying not to think about it, I open the package. I untie the string and remove the thick paper wrapping the book. I'll spend the rest of the day reading the book I ordered. The book I ordered from Gustav was a holy scripture used as a textbook for magic. Isn't it a good idea to think, maybe the healers use books when they train? Such self-praise fell on deaf ears. I opened the thickly bound book. The paper was of poor quality, rough, and the ink didn't seem to adhere well, but it was probably what mass-produced items looked like. The paper was better than the one used in the hero's tale I read to Frau. The contents were handwritten copies. It was likely unintentional, but the text was not parallel in lines and the spacing was uneven, which was quite noticeable. On the title page, there was just one sentence: "Prayers for miracles are for neighbors." This must be a teaching of a religion. I continued reading. The language was old-fashioned, and there were many parts I didn't understand, but I could grasp the general meaning. The text was a story of a saint who traveled, performing miracles and helping people. This wasn't what I expected. No, I ordered a book used for healer training from Gustav. Surely, this is what healers use to learn magic. However, this is more like a holy book than a textbook. It's a true holy scripture. If I wanted to learn healing techniques, shouldn't there be more systematic content? I skimmed through it to the end, but there was nothing about training methods or principles. What's going on? When I was on Earth, I heard that some magic books were written in codes that didn't look like codes at first glance. Is this one of those? But even if it were, I couldn't decipher the code. I was at a loss. I decided to read the story properly, not just skim through it. It was a typical story of a saint that I could easily imagine. The plot was predictable, and to be honest, it was boring. By the will of God, the saint performed miracles to save people. The saint used magic wherever they went, healing the sick and helping with work. It was clear that magic was used everywhere. When the saint saw a sick person, they placed their hands on them and recited a prayer. Instantly, the illness disappeared, and people recovered. At a site where people couldn't gather to build a temple, the saint strengthened their bodies so that each person could work as much as 3 people. The magic used by current healers must be the same. I only received treatment once, but the prayer words were almost the same as those in the book. The prayer words varied depending on the symptoms. For a patient with a persistent cough, they were made to breathe purified air, and for a fever, the heat was dispersed. Perhaps this is just a collection of cases. The book introduces cases like, the saint used this miracle for this symptom. Thinking about it this way, it makes sense. However, this raises more questions. How do healers learn to use this magic? It can't be that they can use it just by reciting the prayer words. I decided to try it out. The target was me. I was the only one I could test it on. I closed my eyes and placed my hand on my chest. This posture wasn't used in the Holy Scripture, but it was a matter of feeling. In the name of God, I, Crow, command that vitality be given to this person, revitalize *. Naturally, nothing happened. Even when I infused it with magic power, nothing happened. I had expected as much, but it wasn't something that could be used just by reciting it. I had bought this book to study magic, but I was stuck here. I put the book aside and lay down on the blanket. My eyes were tired from reading the fine print. When I closed my eyes tightly, I heard a whooshing sound as my muscles contracted. When I opened my eyes again, the ceiling seemed a bit clearer. Ah, well, maybe brute force is the only way. The word slipped out unconsciously. To heal the sick, perhaps brute force, like what I did to Rico, is the only way. Finding and destroying the pathogens directly. Simple but effective. However, the cost is high. In fact, I used up all my magic power to cure the 3-day fever. I couldn't heal Terit as easily. Terit might be a skilled practitioner with much more abundant magic power than me. I just didn't have enough magic power, while Terit used their overflowing magic power to perform magic. So, maybe it's impossible for me. I created a cold breeze over my eyelids, and it felt very refreshing. So, maybe it's impossible for me. But I don't want to give up. The excitement I felt when I cured the 3-day fever was real. I still want to learn. But I have no idea how. I sprawled out and stared at the ceiling. No matter how much I thought about it, I had no idea. I had given up. I couldn't do it on my own. On my own, that is. Excuse me. The next day, I was at the stone shop. Why are you here? Gustav lowered his eyes in exasperation and slumped his shoulders. It's okay, no one saw me. As I said this, I made my body flicker with the invisibility spell, and Gustav's eyes widened in surprise. You can do that. It's a pastime for children living in the forest. It was fun to see Gustav's surprised face. I took a deep breath and looked at Gustav seriously. So, what do you need? I have another question. I said with a smile, and Gustav furrowed his brow and leaned on his cheek. I'll listen. I immediately took out the holy scripture I bought yesterday from my bag and showed it to Gustav. This is the holy scripture of the healers that arrived yesterday. Ah. Can you tell me how the healers use it? When I asked, he looked troubled. That's difficult. What do you mean by difficult? The training of healers isn't widespread. Information hardly leaks out to the outside. I don't know either. He showed a rare serious face and spoke hesitantly. It was interesting to see, but the training method was the bigger issue. Since it's information I haven't dealt with, if you can use magic, you're probably trained somewhere. If you can't use magic, you don't need the information. Can't you investigate? That's also difficult. He answered immediately. They are gathered and educated, but outsiders aren't allowed. They have a strong sense of camaraderie, so no one leaks forbidden information. He added, at least, I've never seen anyone do it. If Gustav said so, the secret must be well kept. I showed the cover of the Holy Scripture with both hands again. Do you know what's written in the Holy Scripture, Gustav? Gustav nodded weakly. Yeah. I've read it, it's a story about a saint who helps people. I don't think you can use magic just by reading this. If he had read it, he should understand. Is it used as a supplement, then? Gustav started to speculate. Is this holy scripture a supplement? Usually, the passing down of techniques in guilds is mostly done orally. Maybe it's the same for healers. Like guidance from seniors to newcomers. Yeah. If that's the case, the guidance from the seniors is necessary for the Holy Scripture to be useful. Another question came to mind. By the way, what kind of training do magicians go through? I remembered that Nevsky said magic and magic were the same. If so, the training methods should be similar. It's about the same. But the training method I was hoping for was also unknown. Magic and magic are monopolized by the Magic Guild and the Church. It's like a blacksmith's technique, it doesn't spread. I see. Most people who can use magic belong to one of them. There's no need to spread it. If I weren't a resident of the slums, I could have joined one of them. According to Nixky, it would be difficult for me to join a guild or a church. A dead end. Well, I'm sure you can figure out the training for magic. Suddenly, Gustav said casually. Figure it out. What about everything you just said? Gustav opened his eyes in surprise. Isn't it easy? You can actually see it. Oh. You didn't realize that. That's right, how did I get this far? You can use the invisibility spell to observe, can't you? But what if there are guards who can handle ki? Gustav laughed it off. No way. You and others who can use magic can't use ki. So, healers can't use it either. Outsiders can't join the church if they're not healers. There's a possibility of outsourcing. If they were doing that, I would have known the inside information. He said confidently. Indeed, if that were the case, it would be easy for someone close to Gustav to infiltrate. Baal seems to be bribing healers. When I mentioned the name, Gustav's face turned sour. Unfortunately, I can't use that method. He didn't put any hint of it in his words, but it was clear he disliked it. It might be due to the preconceived notion I had from yesterday's conversation, but I could clearly feel it this time. They needed it. So, they spent years and a lot of money to finally train healers. I didn't need it, so I didn't put in the effort or time. Does that mean it would take a long time if I did it? Yeah. I can't put so much effort into such a profitless covert operation. He seemed irritated, perhaps because it was about someone he disliked. He tapped his fingers on the desk. It would be much easier and faster for you to observe it yourself. That's the better way. Yeah, you're right. I didn't want to upset him any further. I humbly asked for the location of the training facility for healers and headed to the city with the note in hand. The introduced clinic is a large building with many therapists. However, its layout is similar to the clinic where I was treated before. The exterior is a single slab of blue concrete, perhaps a trademark of sorts. The inside is the same. There is a waiting room, and behind it, the treatment rooms. However, according to Gustav's note, there is a large room. Using the map, I search for it while using the transparency spell. I just need to find a place that is off limits to the general public. The patients seem to be having a good time, chatting and laughing loudly, filling the waiting room. If I listen in, they are boasting about the body parts that have recently been causing them trouble. One person laughs about a sore back, and an old woman retorts that her hands have been numb recently. Another person keeps asking for things to be repeated because their hearing has gotten worse. I couldn't understand what was so enjoyable. Behind a screen, there seems to be a waiting area for the therapists. There is a water station and, perhaps, a small room that serves as a toilet. At the end of the corridor connected to this area, the large room I'm looking for is located. Before lunch break, we'll have a morning lecture, so be prepared. A timid-looking man is raising his voice. I came to listen to this lecture, and it seems the timing is good. However, there seems to be a bit of time before it starts, as the therapists gather in the break room and snack on fruit. That's why, for that person, there was also nausea, right? You can't use *revitalization* in that case. One of the therapists is being scolded. A tall woman with her hair tied back is scolding a short-haired woman with curly hair. But in Chapter 3, Section 2, Saint Koyashaibar used *revitalization* for patients with nausea. Even if there's still poison in the body, absorbing it will be bad in the long run. First, you should use *neutralization* or *extraction*. It seems to be a lesson on how to use the spells. The names of the spells I glimpsed yesterday are mentioned here and there. It's about to start, so everyone, please gather. I wanted to listen to the lesson as well, but now it's time for the spell lecture. I wonder what kind of class it will be. So, for fragile bones that break multiple times in a short period, use accumulation or numbing over a long period. The content is an explanation of the Holy Scriptures. It explains the miracles performed by the saints, relating them to the symptoms of patients seen recently. Everyone places the Holy Scriptures on their desks and listens to the explanation while reading. It's like a university lecture. To be honest, I'm a bit disappointed. This is not much different from me just reading a book. And with this, I don't feel like I can use the spells. Saint Forte is said to have developed a miracle that makes bones less likely to break if used once a year. In this chapter, I take notes while listening to the professor's lecture. It's just a regular class up to this point. There is a difference in the way people take notes. More specifically, the appearance of the Holy Scriptures is different. The curly-haired woman, who is taking a lot of notes and listening intently, still has white spaces in the margins of the Holy Scriptures. However, the Holy Scriptures of the therapists, led by the long-haired women, who are not taking many notes, are already filled with annotations and underlines. Probably, this class is repeating the same thing many times. From the beginning to the end of the Holy Scriptures, the interpretation and explanation are repeated. That's how they study. This means that the curly-haired woman is a newcomer among them. If I watch her, I might be able to see the practical training as well. Thinking this, I decided to watch her today. After lunch break, Yoshino, who is being mentored by Nate, started waiting with him. There are not many patients right after lunch, and both of them look idle. I want to see one of them use a spell, but the opportunity doesn't come easily. After waiting for about 20 minutes, the moment finally arrived. I fell and scraped my knee. A boy, probably around 13 or 14 years old and in good physical condition, came in with a woman who seems to be his mother. Then let's start with the wound. As Yoshino was about to place her hand on the knee, Nate stopped her by tapping her shoulder. There seems to be a bruise around it. How did you fall? He asked the boy. Yoshino, who was interrupted, looked at Nate and opened and closed her mouth. The boy nodded slightly and turned to his mother. The mother answered. Well, I think he fell forward, landing on his knees. Nate looked away from the mother and said to the boy, I'm going to touch it. The boy looked back silently and gently pushed his knee forward. Does this hurt? How about here? Nate touched the knee and asked the boy. The boy answered by nodding or shaking his head. Then, there doesn't seem to be any abnormality in the bone, so let's clean it and heal it quickly. The examination was over. Then, he looked at Yoshino and gave her instructions. Yes. Yoshino, who was looking at Nate, responded with a high-pitched voice when suddenly spoken to. She placed her hand on the knee and recited a prayer. In the name of God, I, Yoshino, command you, impurities, to be cleansed. Purification. I command again, let the wounded be healed. Healing. The effects seemed to appear with each phrase. The dirt was repelled, and the wound closed as if covered by stretched skin. Thank you very much. The mother bowed and expressed her gratitude. The boy also bowed. Please take good care of it. Yoshino said cheerfully and bowed lightly. Nate was watching the scene from behind. Now, do you understand the problem with the treatment just now? Nate called out from behind, and Yoshino turned around, answering apologetically. Well, I judged it was just a scrape based on the patient's complaint. That's right. The mechanism of injury can change things a lot. You can take the patient's complaint with a grain of salt. Yoshino lowered her eyes, looking apologetic. However, Nate continued in an encouraging tone. Well, I think that kind of response is fine for those kinds of patients. This was just a practice for treating a normal patient. Yoshino froze at Nate's sudden harsh words. To be honest, I froze too. By the way, the boy's muscles seem to be injured, so he might come back. If he does, you can handle him casually next time. What? So, it wasn't enough. Yeah. He could bend his knee and slide his lower leg backward, so his muscle must be torn. He was wincing, so it must have hurt. Then, why? Did the boy say anything about pain or injury? Nate distorted his face, closing one eye and stretching the corner of his mouth. Don't worry about it. The boy didn't say a word about pain or injury. Treating the scrape as the mother described was enough. Yes. Yoshino answered, but her voice was small, and it didn't seem like she was convinced. I finally got to see the spell up close, but the other things were so shocking that I couldn't observe it properly. I'll have to look forward to the next patient. Take care now. Then, one after another, the patients were treated. However, there were only minor injuries such as scrapes and cuts, and the only magic used was *purification* and *healing*. I hadn't been paying much attention to my surroundings because I was watching Yoshino, but it seemed that the elderly people in the waiting room were treated by other healers. Honestly, I wish I could have seen that too. What a peaceful day, isn't it? Yeah, Yoshino agreed with Nate, who was yawning. I don't wish for anyone to get hurt, but it's a bit disappointing that I can't see the magic being used. Since there are no patients, I'll reflect on the treatments I've seen so far. First, the process for each treatment starts with an examination, followed by a physical examination if necessary, and then the use of magic. Except for the use of magic, it wasn't much different from a doctor's examination in my previous life. The use of magic. I still can't figure it out even by watching. From the outside, it just looks like they are concentrating magical power on the affected area and reciting prayer words. If that's all it takes, I should have been able to use it yesterday. Like my magic, I don't know if they are creating something or using some kind of telekinetic force. During the treatment, I thought about using my magic to sense the patient's condition by passing my magical power through their body. But if there were different magical powers within the range of my expanded magic, I would surely be able to tell. So, that's not an option. Please. While I was thinking about this, the next patient arrived. Nate's yawning face returned to a relatively serious expression, which I suppose is a good thing. The patient had a pale face and was describing his condition. While I was repairing the roof, I slipped and fell. He was speaking in a broken manner, probably due to the pain in his arm. Actually, the abnormality was obvious even without him speaking. His joint had an extra one. It wasn't actually a joint, but a fracture. His forearm was broken, clean and simple. Is that the only place? Did you hit your head or anything? Yes. I landed on my buttocks, but it doesn't hurt much. Nate checked for swelling and pulse, then gave instructions to Yoshino. The pain might not be limited to the arm. Just heal the arm for now. Yes. Yoshino, perhaps imagining the patient's pain, answered enthusiastically and immediately placed her hand and recited the prayer words. In the name of the gods, I, Yoshino, command. The patient's face became calm, indicating that the pain had subsided somewhat. However, the arm was still bent. Is there still pain? No. When Nate asked, the patient answered, seemingly surprised. Are there any other painful spots now? The patient, who was asked this, touched various places. Now, both hands could move. No, it seems to be gone. Good, then you're fine. Yoshino watched Nate's conversation with a proud and heavy breathing. Sometimes, you might feel pain later, so if that happens, come back. The treatment was over, and the patient left. The pain seemed to be gone, and the cold sweat had stopped. Thank you very much. He then bowed deeply and stood up. What? Is it over already? No, it's not. The bone is still bent. For a small child, it might be okay, as I've heard that it can be corrected to some extent. No, that's not right, it gradually corrects itself during the healing process. However, the young man is already a youth, and the fracture was in the middle of the shaft. If not realigned, it could heal in that position. Moreover, it has already been healed by magic. It won't develop into a false joint or delayed healing, but it won't improve either, as it is already healed. A question mark appeared in my head. The manual skills are developed enough to diagnose ligament injuries. They should be able to realign the bone. Why didn't they do it? Perhaps the payment, or rather the donation, was insufficient. No, it didn't feel that way. Yoshino received the money, but there was no consultation or eye contact with Nate about the amount. Then why? Was it impossible? Or was it not done? Or did they not think of it? I don't know. I want to ask, but I can't as I am an illegal intruder, which is frustrating. While I was pondering, another patient arrived. He said his stomach hurts and he's squatting, and he doesn't want to move. A small child was carried in by his mother. He had a pale face and was holding his stomach. He was also trembling slightly. Just lay him down for now. The mother nodded at Nate's instructions and laid the child down. Then, she pressed his stomach and asked questions. Does it hurt when I press here? No. The little girl answered in a small, wheezing voice. No rebound tenderness. Home. Nate, after pondering, answered. It's just a stomachache. He's also shivering, so it's probably an organ swelling. After saying that, he turned to Yoshino. I'll leave the rest to you. Yes. Should I use asterisk neutralization asterisk followed by asterisk anti-inflammation asterisk? Yoshino, answering enthusiastically, was about to place her hand on the girl's stomach when a hand reached out from behind. Wait. The voice, which seemed to come from above, was calm and cold. Look closely. There's a bruise. Yoshino and Nate looked at the girl's stomach and saw a small bruise on the lower right abdomen. Oh, that's from when she fell and hit a rock a couple of days ago. The mother explained, but the speaker, who seemed to be listening or not, pushed past the two healers and squatted in front of the girl. He placed his hand on her stomach and, as if he had noticed something, looked up. Indeed, it's ruptured. Eh? Yoshino exclaimed. She covered her mouth, and Nate was also shocked into silence. Sometimes, after receiving a blow to the abdomen, internal organs can rupture a few days later. Be careful in the future. He said this matter-of-factly, then kept his hand on her stomach for a few seconds before standing up quietly. You can go now. The mother, who seemed to be momentarily confused, then bowed dramatically and called out, "Thank you very much." The man, who had silently seen the mother off, was unusually tall and thin. He was over 2 meters tall, with long, thin limbs that seemed to lack muscle. His skin was pale and unhealthy, and the dark circles under his eyes emphasized his unhealthiness. Thank you, Dean. Sure. Nate bowed, and the man simply said, sure, before turning and walking towards the break room. There was probably a dean's office in the back. The two watched the man leave. When the dean was out of sight, Nate scratched his head and apologized to Yoshino. Sorry. Making a misdiagnosis like that wasn't good for a teacher. No, it's okay. Yoshino, shaking her head in front of her chest, looked confused. The dean's treatment is different, isn't it? Yoshino said thoughtfully, and Nate smiled proudly. Really? You haven't seen the dean's treatment before? Yes. I knew he was a magic user, but... A magic user and a healer. Another piece of new information. Yeah, there's only one magic user healer in this alien, and he's one of the best. Isn't that great? He can tell what's wrong just by touching the patient. Nate said this thoughtfully, then slapped her own cheeks with both hands. Yeah. I'll become like that someday. I'll work hard. Yoshino smiled wryly at Nate's enthusiastic shout. It seems there are more things to think about now. I'll ask Gustav about the words I don't understand later. Thinking about it, I don't really understand the definition of a magic user or the classification of magic, sorcery, and magic. What does one of the best mean? I'll make a mental note of the words I don't understand. And then, there's the dean's treatment. There were several clear differences from Nate and the others. I closed my eyes and recalled the scene. First, he didn't do a proper physical examination. He placed his hand on the stomach but didn't press or check the temperature. He just placed his hand there. He saw the bruise on the stomach and, by placing his hand, diagnosed the rupture of an internal organ, probably the liver. Also, he seemed to have treated it without reciting any prayer words. He just placed his hand and stopped moving for a few seconds, and the treatment was complete. Clearly, he was different from the other healers. I came here to learn magic, but the mysteries are only increasing. It's really frustrating that I can't show myself. After that, it was just simple treatments. When night fell, the healers exchanged the greeting, "Thank you for your hard work," and returned to their lodgings. I should go home too. Not to the slums, but to the cabin in the forest. I want to prepare something to eat on the way. I might catch some fish along the way. I close the door with a click and turn on the light. I don't need the light if I use magic, but since it's there, it would be a waste not to use it. I'm afraid of being charged for the oil later, though. I sit in the chair and ponder about the clinic I observed today. In the end, I couldn't figure out how to use the spells just by watching. I thought they might do some training at the meeting, but it was just a discussion of the Holy Scriptures. I thought I might understand something by watching the treatments, but all I saw was them placing their hands and reciting prayers. I'm completely stuck. I lean back in the chair, feeling drained. As I look at the ceiling, a sigh escapes me naturally. If only I could ask questions. If I showed myself and asked various questions, it might work. The healers can do it. I don't want to think that I can't do it just because I can use magic the same way they do. Maybe there's some innate ability required, but I don't even know that. I'm in a bind. I asked people because I was puzzled, but my worries weren't resolved. I flip through the Holy Scriptures casually, turning the pages. The old-fashioned text was just a story of a saint, as usual. However, as I read, one line caught my attention. It was about a saint named Forte healing a man who had suffered a complex fracture in a rockfall accident. He was tested by the Rolling Stones. Saint Forte healed the man whose limbs were broken. "This arm was made for you by God," Saint Forte declared to the man and immediately left. The man embraced his crescent-shaped arm joyfully. Clearly, the arm was left bent. And the man was happy with his deformed arm. Is this story a fabrication? I don't know. But I realize something. Yoshino looked proud when she saw the man's bent arm. I thought she was happy about being able to heal the injury. I thought she was boasting, "See, I can heal even such injuries." But what if it's not that? What if she was recalling this line from the Holy Scriptures? What if she was happy about recreating a scene from the Holy Scriptures? So what? Even if that's true, it just means she had a strong faith. That's all. But something feels off. I can't figure out what it is. I close the book with a click. I'll go to bed now. Tomorrow, I'll ask Gustav various things. Anyway, give me all the information you know. You're a new kind of thief, aren't you? Gustav's retort is refreshing. Why are you asking me about magic and spells? I don't know much about them. Gustav says this with a bewildered face, which is reasonable. He's right. But I have my reasons. because Gustav is the only one I can talk to right now. That's right. I can't reveal myself. If I do, it might reach Baal. I want to be as cautious as possible. Besides Gustav, the only others I could reveal myself to are Halo, Rico, and Nixki. And I don't know where Nixki is. Halo and Rico don't seem to know anything. By process of elimination, I came here. Even if I pout, Gustav's bewildered face doesn't change. He doesn't seem to have a compassionate heart. About the difference between mags and spellcasters. He sighs and ponders. After a long time, he finally speaks. Is it okay if I explain it from the perspective of ordinary people? Yes. Even that is appreciated right now. First, mags, spellcasters, and healers are all people who can do something with magic. You're a mage, right? He looks down at me and states this. What's the difference between a mage and the others? A spellcaster or healer is called that if they can use spells or rituals. So, a mage can't use either. Like me. That's a bit different. Even we find it hard to distinguish. Gustav stammers, looking puzzled. It seems that those with strong magic can emit magic around their body, or rather, they can, right? Yes, something like this. I spread my magic throughout the room, coloring the air lightly. It turns a bubble-like color, though I didn't
PMITV
intend it.
audiobook.
What? Gustav's mouth opens wide in shock. Did I do something strange? Hey, that's not the range of magic, is it? You're using magic to color it, right? No, I just colored the magic. I stop Gustav, who is hurriedly repeating questions, and ask him to continue explaining. So, if you can emit magic, you're a mage. That means a mere healer can't do this. Yes, but, no, that's strange. Did you know this already? Gustav is still flustered. What's going on? I'm asking here because I don't know much. No, that's right. He's trying to calm down. Gustav takes a water bottle from his waist and drinks it in one gulp. Then he spits it out. Cough. Take it easy, or it might go down the wrong way. I reach out to pat his back, but I can't reach over the counter. What should I do? Gustav suddenly looks like an old man. No, he was already old. After a while, his coughing subsides, and the wheezing stops. Mags can emit magic around their body. Got it. He's trying to keep a straight face, but it's pointless. Yes, so why are you surprised? The range of magic a mage can emit determines their rank. Is it fingers? Did you know that? 1 finger, 2 fingers, then it increases to 5 fingers, which is 1 hand. If we were to name it, what would it be? I'm at the level of 3 fingers, and it's moreover. I'm probably at the level of 1 or 2 fingers. That's my guess. 1 finger means the range is about the width of a finger. Gustav spreads his left hand to show the length. By the way, I've never heard of anyone with the range of 1 arm. Wait, in my case. Now you see how unconventional you are. I shake my head silently. Well, in the southern territories of Nug, it seems a noble's son was born with 1 arm, so maybe it's that kind of era. Gustav mutters, looking far away, perhaps in shock. What should I do? He really looks old. Gustav clears his throat and tries to drink water again, but the bottle is empty. He shakes it to confirm there's no water left and puts it away silently. Mags can control the magic they emit. That's what magic is. That's what I always use. Yes, in contrast, spells and rituals are cast by reciting something. So, spells and rituals require incantations or prayers, while magic doesn't. Gustav nods. Yes. I don't know the details, but that's how it is for us who don't have magic. So, whether someone is called a mage depends on the amount of magic they have, and what they can do determines if they are called a spellcaster or healer. It's a simple classification when summarized. That's right. Then, how many mags are there? If there's a healer who is also a mage, it means there are very few. In essence, there might be fewer than 50. He looks at me with a piercing gaze. Among them, your magic is abnormally strong. It's better not to stand out too much.
PMITV
Yes.
audiobook.
But if necessary, I'll use as much as I need. I flex my bicep in response. However, it's best to avoid unnecessary trouble. I won't show off. I'll use it only when necessary.